notice we got smarter and put the noise over there this week?
Yeah, thank you.
Oh.
I saw that when I walked up.
Sometimes we can just shake our heads at, you know?
Okay.
It's all good.
Do you have enough room? Old bean coffee is so good.
Did a second watch soften you on it?
I'm gonna see it Monday.
I'm going again Tuesday.
Star Wars.
I freaking loved it.
You loved it?
I loved it. But remember 2 years ago when we were having, our long 2-hour discussion about it, like my two big complaints about The Force Awakens are, I'm sick of the Skywalkers.
Yeah.
I don't want to follow them around the universe anymore. I'm done with it. Kill them all. I don't care.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to feel like the original trilogy.
See,
I don't want to see that story again. So,
Yeah.
like, Snoke, I wasn't interested in Snoke.
Really?
I don't care.
See, that was my problem with it, is that I'm cool with the spin-offs and the Han Solo movie that's still supposed to happen, that's probably going to
that'd
be
be
a
fun.
disaster, Rogue One, but this was part of a story, and so to me, J.J. Abrams is going to be directing 9, and now he's going to have to go back in and clean up everything that Rian Johnson did.
Well, we
Rian
don't
Johnson
know.
gets his own trilogy.
We don't know. Like, that's the whole point. We don't know if he has to clean up anything or if this is the story.
Yeah, just a couple things. Like, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Star Wars yet, Princess Leia should have died. Like, she should have, in that scene,
Sure.
she should have died. And
fine
to
with
have
that.
it be that way, it was almost corny for her to, like, force move through space.
That was my least favorite moment of the whole movie.
I thought it was
Well,
such
between that and, like, the casino was stupid.
Yeah.
Everything that happened in the casino.
You didn't even need the casino. And then they start going into, like, animal rights and...
Like, everything Finn was doing was dumb.
Finn's story, this movie just completely threw me off.
It
The
was-
romance between him and Rose, like...
Well, I don't think it's a romance between him and Rose. I think it was... Rose is infatuated with Finn.
Yeah.
And in a moment where she doesn't know what's going to happen,
Right.
from that point forward, she's got this guy that she's infatuated with right in front of him. She just rescued his life. It would be the guy kissing the girl. It's just the opposite.
Yeah.
And we're so used to seeing the guy take
But it was
advantage
such
of
an
the girl.
awkward kiss, too.
It was. And it should be. She's awkward. Like,
I thought she sucked. Like,
I didn't mind her at all.
I didn't like her.
I didn't mind her at all. And I thought the opening sequence was the coolest battle thing Star Wars has ever done.
See, I loved Kylo and Rey's fight
that was
together.
great, too.
That was awesome.
And
And
then
is that his Knights of Ren, the red guys?
I don't know. But when they twisted it, like, I was in the theater, I could feel my entire theater going, what? And I was in my seat, I'm going, yes! Like, when Kylo turned back, I was like, yes, yes, yes,
But how did
yes.
Snoke not know? He's an all-knowing being.
Because he was looking into his mind, right? Like, he was reading his thoughts, and he misinterpreted what the thoughts were about. Like, where they were aimed. Not what he was thinking, but where they were aimed.
I guess.
And it's like
I don't know. It's
like
just
a lot
Snoke
of
is
people
supposed
have
to be this big character, and
Maybe he
we're
never
not.
was.
But he
I
obviously
didn't
he's been
want
around
another
in
emperor.
power, you know.
Like, I didn't want another emperor. I'm tired of
Yeah,
emperors.
I'm cool with, like, taking a new direction, but at least patch up the holes first before you take it in a new direction,
know if they
or
will.
do it in a half-ass way. Yeah, I did hear a good comparison too, that we didn't know much about Palpatine
I never
until
knew
the
anything about
prequels.
Palpatine. I didn't care about learning it.
I do.
Like-
I want to know the backstory of everybody.
Like,
and
Palpatine, I was like, who cares? He threw him down a hole. That's who Palpatine was.
See, because my thing and maybe that was my mistake. My mistake is going in with all of these different theories and trying to
It's True
explore
Detective.
them. What the fuck is going on?
Thank you.
It was True Detective. Everyone that was watching True Detective as it was happening
How are you this morning,
were
Matt?
very disappointed in the villain reveal.
Good, thank you.
I never cared about that. Like, I was watching, this is a show about the two cops.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a series about Kylo
good,
and
thank you.
Rey. That's what it's about.
Jacksonville Jaguars.
My computer's acting up, so we're just gonna wing it.
WJXL-FM
Oh, good.
1010XL.
Speak it into existence.
The Jacksonville Jaguars. Live from tailgates, the 1010XL Kickoff Show, fueled by
have made it to the final home game of the regular season, and the 9-4 Jaguars are knocking on the door of the playoffs. That's right, the playoffs, kicking off against the 4-9 Houston Texans at 1 o'clock today. The Jaguars are currently in first place in the AFC South, and for the first time in a decade, can clinch a playoff berth today. Good morning, Blythe and Tony.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I haven't stopped smiling all week, but will either of you cry today if the Jaguars make the playoffs?
Cry? No, I won't cry.
If they win a playoff game, I will.
Yeah, I'm not a cry to celebrate guy. It's not my thing.
I say that, but I cried last week when Blake Bortles hit that 75-yard touchdown right after Russell Wilson had scored. I cried then. That was a great moment.
Oh, I get it. It's worthy of it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. Like, if you're gonna cry after they win this game today, I'm totally with you. I'm fine. I don't have an issue with the crying tears of joy. I don't like the crying tears of sadness thing. You know,
I've done both.
Yeah, we don't need that in our stadium, but the crying tears of joy, and for the first time in a decade to have a reason to. Ooh, it's going to be a lot of fun. Look, if I think I saw yesterday the Jags are selling standing room only tickets for today's game, so it's expected to be another sellout. So for all you who prefer it on your couch, well, today all of us who are out here get to celebrate with 64,000 friends while you celebrate with your dog. So have a good time at home. I think we're going to have a little bit more fun down here at the stadium today.
A week ago, Everbank Field was rocking as the Jaguars took down the Seahawks 30-24. Blythe, are we officially in a new era of Jaguars football?
It certainly feels that way. I think the biggest question throughout, I mean, obviously we had the offseason that we did. I don't have to rehash that. But the biggest question throughout the season has been the play of quarterback Blake Bortles and if he can pull through whenever it matters most. And he's answered that call within the past couple weeks. And you can sort of, you can almost feel his confidence growing week by week. And it's almost palpable.
Tony, are we in a new era of Jaguars football? Can we plant the flag that the losing is over?
I don't know. Like that's.
Come on, man!
I want to believe it. Like I personally believe it, but that doesn't mean anything. Or, like I had someone talk to me about the 49ers earlier this week, and you know what they missed was they misevaluated what they were getting with Colin Kaepernick, right? And in the end, them missing on that meant their window was 3 years instead of 10, right? So we don't know. We know what's right now. And maybe it means that there's a window that's opening up for the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2018 and beyond. It's going to be so bright, and they're going to be competitive for 5 years, 10 years. Maybe that's what it means. I hope that's what it means. I think the defense is good enough that it ought to be competitive for the next couple of years. But this is the NFL. You're guaranteed now, right? Like, everyone's looking for the next Patriots. There's not a next Patriots. We're talking about 20-plus years that the Patriots now have been at the top of this game in the NFL. The odds of you finding that magic formula are so astronomically low. Enjoy 2017. Hopefully 2018 turns out as well as 2017 has gone, or better. But enjoy this right now in the moment. I think the defense is good enough. They got the pieces in place. Nobody's going away from the 11 that they have on that side, outside of maybe Aaron Colvin. So it looks like the future should be bright, but you don't know about injuries. You don't know about guys that are going to want to bail once their contract comes up. You don't know. You know that in 2017, you had an opportunity to maybe go get the 1 or 2 seed in the AFC. Let's worry about the next 3 weeks and whatever the run's going to be in the playoffs, and then start talking about the future, because it's so wide open, it's impossible to tell. I think it's bright, but I really don't know.
See, and I've now come to the belief that the losing is behind this franchise. That it's been there long enough. And, you know, we refer to 2007 as the last time the Jaguars made the playoffs. Absolutely. It's been a whole lot of bad since then. 2010 had some promise, and then the Jaguars lost a bunch of games to end the season. So, to me, it does feel like we can almost shed that snakeskin and move into the era where we start talking about not just this Jaguars defense, but the Jaguars offense too. I mean, I think that Seahawks victory showed everyone that the Jaguars can win when their offense plays well too. It doesn't have to just be about the defense. And actually the defense almost gave up the loss. It felt like a couple times last week.
Well, I think short term you may be right, and I think long term it's just impossible to tell.
You're right.
I think a lot of Jaguars fans probably felt the same way after they made the playoffs twice in 3 years, in 05 and 07. Mm-hmm. This is the beginning of something, not the end of it. This is the beginning of us getting there. It's why they gave up all those draft picks to go get a defensive end that turned out to be a bust in the first round. I mean, in 2008, this franchise thought they were a defensive end away from competing for a Super Bowl. They were wrong. They misevaluated where they were and what they actually had in-house. I think the future is bright in Jacksonville. And I'll be happy to talk about the future of what's going on in Jacksonville when we get to February and they're hosting the Lombardi Trophy, and then we can talk about future.
Better knock on wood.
In December right now, let's talk about Houston. Let's talk about the next 2 weeks and get ready for this playoff run and then figure out what it looks like from there.
Well, and that's the fun part is we get to talk about the next few weeks with promise.
Oh, no doubt.
This time last year, I don't want to remind anyone where we were at, but
nightmare.
It had been long over. That's the thing. So to me, it's funny. I was at a concert Thursday or Friday night. I saw a guy named Luke Combs, and there was a song that I chose early on this season, one number away. And the reason I chose it is because I was saying the Jaguars are one number away from being good, and that was Blake Bortles, number 5. That's the position that they were lacking. And to sit here now and think that Blake Bortles has played spectacular football, and the Jaguars are 1 win away from the playoffs, it really is surreal. And I have been on cloud 9 all week, and I hope that, like you said, Tony, the 64,000 that show up today get to enjoy the playoff clinching victory at home here at Everbank Field. The first time the Jaguars and the Texans met in week 1, the Jaguars took them down 29-7 in Houston. How different are these teams now, Tony?
Well, Houston is just a mash unit. It's
like their practice squad, right?
Yeah, it's not even the same team coming in. I mean, I guess they were starting their backup quarterback at the time, though they didn't want to acknowledge that. And Tom Savage, week 1 against the Jags. So obviously, there's no Deshaun Watson, there's no J.J. Watt, there's no Lee Merciless. I mean, it's a lot of injuries. They got DeAndre Hopkins, who showed up on an injury report midweek. I mean, he's going to play, but is he really DeAndre Hopkins dealing with a foot injury or toe injury? Lamar Miller is banged up coming into this game today, and they got their 3rd-string quarterback out there to go against a defense that sacked them 10 times. Look, I think, yeah, the Jags are a team that has a whole lot of confidence because of what started in week 1 against Houston, but they were still a team that early on in the season were win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, and now they're a team that's winning 6 out of 7. And that's a different animal for Houston to have to come here and deal with that on top of all the injuries they have, which is why this feels like such a lopsided game for the Jaguars today, because they are just in completely different places right now within the 2017 season.
It almost feels like that first game of the year against the Texans sort of set the tone for the season, because I remember my dad getting emotional over that victory because it was such a large margin of victory, 10+ sacks, and it was something that when he got emotional, he was like, this is just something we're not used to. Now at this point in the season, we're actually used to it, which is really, really strange. So as similarly as the Houston Texans game set the tone for the season, I hope that this game against the Texans sets the tone for the playoffs.
I like it. Blythe, for fans getting ready for today's game at home, what should they get ready for temperature-wise? It's going to change a little bit on us, right?
Yeah, last week was definitely one of those games where you wanted to layer on. This is going to be one of those games that I think you want to bring a jacket to take off. It's only going to be a high of 71 today, but it's going to be sunny for most of the day. So bring a light jacket, wear it in the morning, wear it after the game, but during the game, you're probably not going to want to bring it in.
Yeah, it's a little chilly now, probably in the, upper 50s. And it's going to be a beautiful day for some football. All right, Jaguars running back Leonard Fournette is out for today, in case you didn't hear that yesterday. He didn't practice all week, so it's not too surprising since he has that quadriceps injury. How does that change the offense, Tony?
It shouldn't much.
Yeah.
Against Houston, it shouldn't matter all that much, just like when he missed the game against Indianapolis. I mean, you'd rather have Fournette than not have him, but they shouldn't need Leonard Fournette to beat the Houston Texans. And I think we saw a little bit.
Sentence.
Right. You saw Chris Ivory look like Chris Ivory for the first time in a couple weeks last week, it felt like. So hopefully that means that he's getting back to being healthy with whatever illness he was dealing with, back to being healthy, and looked the part last week. So look, they'll split the backfield between Ivory and Yeldon will get all the 3rd down touches and a handful of carries in this game today, and that should be enough with the problems that Houston has on defense right now, and the guy that got playing quarterback, honestly, on the other side against this Jaguars defense today. It shouldn't be that big of an issue. But look, I talked about it this week a little bit. It's not something we got into too heavy on Jaguars today, but for fans, and I'm with you, like, this is a game that the Jacksonville Jaguars should win 10 times out of 10. There's no excuse for them to lose this game today. Tennessee came here last year. It's been the win that you celebrated all offseason. Was Tennessee coming into this building last year and you putting them into the ground and ending their playoff hopes, basically here in this building. Houston has a chance to come in and do kind of the same thing to you. Where last year it felt like Tennessee was in control of the South. They were about to take complete control of it from the top. overtake Houston. They had Marcus Mariota rolling. The run game was rolling at the end of the year, and Jacksonville beat them down. And it wasn't a game that anyone expected to turn out that way. You don't need anything unexpected to happen today at Everbank. It's not that it's impossible for it to happen. It just feels like the odds are so stacked against it. Don't be the team that we're talking about on Monday. The whole country's talking about, are the Jaguars really for real? Like, that's the storyline we all obviously want to avoid going into Monday.
Absolutely. And I'm telling you, I thought about that throughout the week. I don't think the Jaguars need Leonard Fournette to beat the Texans. What a turnaround that is. And that is a good, really good backfield when you can play Ivory and Yeldon and not even have to worry about it. They combined for 337 yards earlier this season when Fournette was out for those 2 games. So I feel confident. I feel comfortable. And then on the defensive side, Blythe, your absolute favorite player is obviously quarterback Jalen Ramsey. What are you looking forward to today between he and DeAndre Hopkins?
I hope they mic him up for this game. I don't know that they're going to, though. This is something that it sort of goes back to the Jaguars lore of, like, making Jalen Ramsey, he's the father of DeAndre Hopkins, and there's a lot of back and forth, and his relationship with DeAndre Hopkins is really the first sign of trash talking that we saw from Jalen, and now to see that relationship sort of evolve where it heads into social media then, or a little bit last season, and so I'm anxious to see how this game is going to go, because DeAndre Hopkins, Tony said earlier that he showed up on the injury report, but he's going to play because he wants that matchup against Jalen.
All right, so you have Leonard Fournette starting, so you got to change your lineup.
Yes.
So for everybody else who has some lineup questions, keep it right here because Tony is going to help you set your playoff lineup. That's next on 1010XL.
Special teams are a part of making a team special. Listen for the special teams.
Good morning, guys. Hopefully they can hear us.
Superior Where quality
Well, they can turn the radio on or the app.
92.5 FM.
A friend of mine's dad texted me yesterday morning, and he was like, "Hi, sorry to bother you, but the app's not working." I was like, "Okay." And so for like an hour, I was troubleshooting back and forth via text with him. And what's funny is I think at the end, he just was hitting the play button.
No doubt. That will help.
But it's impossible to like help someone when you can't see what they're dealing with. Oh my gosh.
I'm begging my roommate to go see Star Wars. Because I'm like, last night I spent hours reading the negative, like,
We hear you during the commercials.
audience
Good.
reviews and laughing at it.
Is that working for you,
People are
Blythe?
so
It's
mad.
working. I was worried about the
People are
commercial
so
breaks
mad
if they would be able to hear us or not, but they can hear us, so
Perfect.
You ruined
works
my
great. Which is
childhood.
makes
It was a
that's
common
weird.
refrain. I
They
was
should be
just
able to hear us,
cackling.
right? They should be hearing the commercials.
Why would, since I know nothing about it, why would people be saying that?
It's
Because-
mics aren't on. They should.
Like, is there a
shouldn't
big
be able to hear
twist
us.
from the
Because
original?
this movie
Yeah.
took one of the most beloved characters.
As long as you guys can hear us, good morning.
And
Thank you for
twisted him
watching.
into something that they never thought this series would
YouTube
ever
works
call.
well for us, so hopefully we'll have another home game to be able
Everyone, like,
to
when I was in the
broadcast
theater,
from.
The first moment he was on
Playoff
screen,
game.
the first thing that he did, I was like, oh. I was like, this is not what everyone expected this to be.
Okay, so now I get it. So
It-
that's
like
why
it-
people are upset.
Yeah, it began subverting expectation the moment he showed up on screen.
Okay.
Even told you in the preview. I mean, you've seen the preview. You heard what Luke said. This will not end how you think. He told us. He told us the whole time.
He vehemently did not like Ryan's direction as far as Star Wars
It was
is
the
concerned.
best.
Spoiler alert if you haven't seen
ever
Star Wars
picked.
yet.
I was gonna
This
say,
is
if
the
people haven't
best
seen it
he's
and they want to see it, they
ever
probably shouldn't watch.
It was the most interesting I've ever seen Luke Skywalker.
You didn't feel like that? Oh, yeah, his character was great. Kylo and
Kylo and
Rey.
My God.
They
I could watch
carried
that
the
for
movie.
5 hours.
Yeah.
I was like, give me this.
I
want
loved
all
the
of
dynamic
this.
between the two of them. But didn't you feel like it jumped around a lot? The pacing was off to me. The story, there's no
felt
character
like-
development to me.
It felt like they had a really good idea of what they wanted the third act to be, and the third act was amazing. Like, I felt it after we got done with the battle scene. Like, I could feel it dragging every time we came back to Poe.
Yeah.
Or every time we did anything with Finn. It's not that I didn't get where their story arcs went. I got
Right.
it. Like, I get where they wound up, and I know why we went to the casino planet. Like, I get why we did
See,
everything
I
we
liked
did.
the look of the casino planet, but I just
boring.
the story. You're going after a guy with a white suit and a red lapel, and he has zero to do with it. You
No.
should have just said, we're going after. And Benicio del Toro's character was really. I really liked liked him,
I like
and I
the
wanted to
issue.
see more of him.
Well, you may.
I think,
But
yeah, I think we will in the
I
next
think
one.
he was a commentary on all of it. Like, that character, you know, you get to the ship, and you find out that he's selling weapons to both sides, and you think all these people are just evil, and like
See, that was sort of weird to me.
I don't think it's weird. I think it was Star Wars saying that there are no good and bad guys. Like, no one is pure good and bad.
Maybe, okay.
Like, it's
That's
this
actually
idea,
a good theory.
Like, the idea, I think they're going to a place where what we've all forgotten is the Force is about balance.
Right.
Which is why a Rey needs to show up.
And like the gray light that they theorize
Right,
about.
like
There's not the light or the dark, but the gray.
Right, it's the idea of Rey is there because Kylo exists.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, that's the idea. And what Luke's arc in the whole thing is, Luke forgot that. Like, he
Mm-hmm.
thought that he was good enough that he could overcome us needing this balance. So I can train whoever I want. And it was this vanity, and then he got to look at what Kylo might be, and had this moment of, do I kill Darth Vader before he becomes Darth Vader?
Right.
And then he had that conflict within himself, made the decision he made, which pissed off a bunch of fans. I was watching it going, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, this is all amazing.
I almost thought he was lying when Kylo was telling that story. I was like, he's lying. He's not telling the truth.
Well, and it was like, it was such a, did you ever see Rashomon?
Uh-uh.
It's an old Japanese movie where the idea was perspective, and it was a murder, and the story was retold from like 4 different perspectives, and it was everyone just telling their version of what happened. And it was up to the viewer to decide what you actually think happened within the story. And that's what that felt like to me. It was like, we got this version and this version, and what really happened between these. I think Luke's version is the real version.
Yeah.
Of what happened, Kylo was obviously distorted because he's messed up in the head. But I like the first half of the movie.
30 seconds.
I was like, where are we going with this? Like, I don't know what kind of ride I'm on. The second half of the movie, my favorite Star Wars thing I've ever seen. Like, I was so in. I was thrilled the entire time.
I left feeling, I don't know if I loved it or hated it.
I get why people would leave conflicted, totally.
These holiday seasons, put the holiday hoppers at 1010XL. That's like Ears, Anthony Adolf, and Woodcraft at Jacksonville. Ho, ho, ho. Happy holidays. Get help with holiday premiums at 1010XL.com.
Who is this week's sleeper? Who's got breakout potential? Who's a bust? Here's Tony Smith with your fantasy football final.
Are you tired of hearing about Star Wars yet, Lauren?
No, not at all.
Okay, because Blythe and I, it's been every spare moment we've had.
We're gonna keep it going.
And The Last Jedi, and I got so much more. I think we both did what we can say about that one. We'll get back to that on the break. If you want to join us on the live stream, you can. Fantasy today, quarterbacks, number 1, Russell Wilson, 2, Tom Brady, 3, Aaron Rodgers. Welcome back, big guy. 4, Cam Newton, and 5, Drew Brees. It's playoff time, so I'd like to try and give owners of injured quarterbacks, specifically Carson Wentz, who may be diving onto the waiver wire to try and figure out where to go now during the do or die part of the season as we're into the playoffs. I'll try to give you an idea where I would be looking if I was in your shoes. If Case Keenum is still somehow insanely available in your league, despite the fact that he's been a top 10 fantasy option for 2 months now, then your answer is easy. Beyond that, I would rank the likely available streaming options as follows: Nick Foles 1, Jimmy Garoppolo 2, Blake Bortles 3, and then Joe Flacco. That's right, I just recommended in a certain amount of a wrong situation that Bortles could be the right play for you today. I would play all 4 of these guys ahead of, say, Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston, or Derek Carr, if you're stuck in that kind of situation. Running backs this week, number 1, Le'Veon Bell, 2, LaShawn McCoy, 3, Todd Gurley, 4, Alvin Kamara, 5, Mark Ingram. Fournette hadn't been able to practice all week. We know where that situation is going at this point. Chris Ivory is the better bet to get 15 carries and whatever goal line work there will be for the Jags. I think Yeldon perhaps gets a handful of snaps, targets in the passing game. I can see Ivory as kind of a low-end running back too going into your playoff matchups today. I don't think Yeldon has much value in a lineup, even a PPR. You can likely find a better flex option than TJ Yeldon for the Texans. Lamar Miller, if he plays, coming in banged up against the Jags defense that should be geared up to stop the run today with really no threat from the quarterback position. If Miller plays, I think he is less valuable than I just discussed Ivory being, with Fournette not being able to go today. Other guys that I like this week include Kenyon Drake. I told you last week that Drake was a blind spot for me. I don't like the Miami offense in general and didn't grab him in any league, so I really wasn't invested in him. But after watching him the last couple weeks, seeing the way the Fins are using him, I think he's an RB1 right now, as well as we hit the playoffs. Jamal Williams remains a high volume play for Green Bay going up against Carolina. Joe Mixon, I was excited to get him back in lineups. Not playing this week. They are holding him out again with a concussion. That news came out in the last couple of hours. I lean Rex Burkhead over Dion Lewis, but I could play either one of them in that crucial matchup between the Pats and Steelers. Wide receivers this week: Antonio Brown 1, Julio Jones 2, Doug Baldwin 3, Michael Thomas 4, and Adam Thielen coming in at number 5. The Jags have 2 playable wideouts right now. I could put Marquise Lee or D.D. Westbrook in a lineup and feel good about it.
What about Keelan Cole?
No. I'd probably lean slightly towards D.D. if I was choosing between the two, but it is just a slight lean. DeAndre Hopkins did score a touchdown in his Week 1 matchup this season against the Jags, and the truth with Hopkins is that even in a matchup against the secondary and with a third-string quarterback in for the Texans, we all know that even with all that going on, Hopkins will get 10 to 15 targets. He likely won't do with those 10 to 15 targets what he does against virtually anyone else he plays with those targets, but he will see the ball, and because of that, it's impossible to get him out of the lineup for me, even if I would play him more as a wide receiver 2 than a wide receiver 1 in its matchup today. Other guys that I like this week include Jordy Nelson. Welcome back to the lineup, Aaron Rodgers, and welcome back to the lineup, Jordy Nelson. I don't think that Jordy's skills have diminished as much as his stats while playing with Brett Hundley could lead you to believe. I still think Devontae Adams is a good option, but I am putting Jordy, who's been riding the pine basically since Rodgers got hurt, back into a lineup and expecting him to produce like the Jordy of old that we were all so used to, that you probably drafted as your wide receiver 1 this year. And once Rodgers went down, Brett Hundley just had no idea what to do with this new toy. Until it gets old to me, which isn't yet, I'm going to continue to mention Josh Gordon during this segment every week. I like Marquise Goodwin. A lot of people may be fading Robbie Anderson with Josh McCown injured this week, but I'm not one of them. Anderson had a connection with Bryce Petty last year. That's when Anderson burst onto the scene, and I expect the same today. Robert Woods is back for the LA Rams, and if I had to rank the Rams receivers in order of preference for me, it would be Woods, then Cooper Kupp, then Sammy Watkins. Tight ends this week: Rob Gronkowski 1, Zach Ertz 2, Jimmy Graham 3, Evan Ingram 4, and Delaney Walker 5. The rest of my top 10: Jared Cook, Jason Witten, Cameron Brate, Vernon Davis, and Greg Olsen.
All right, so I know Andrew lost a heartbreaker last week. Blythe, are you in the championship or are you in the semifinals?
Semifinals in 2 out of my 3 leagues.
All right, so you have 2 more weeks to go. Well, this week and next week. And where are you at in your league?
I am still alive in the 3 that I was alive in last week, with a really good chance in one of the Jaguars Today listener leagues. I had about a 40-point lead. Philip Rivers didn't help me a bunch last night against Kansas City, but 40 points should be enough to get me through the championship round next week.
Excellent. Yeah, I lost when Alvin Kamara went out with that concussion.
That was I got a 40-point lead with Kamara in that lineup.
Oh, wow.
This week. Like my running backs, it's Bell, Gurley, and Kamara.
Okay.
Is what I'm running every week right now in that league. I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, with Fournette out, I have the Patriots running back. Is it Gillespie? Is that his name? Gillespie. That's how you pronounce his name?
Oh,
Yeah.
Gillespie, yeah. I don't know why I said Gillespie.
My fate was sealed when Carson Wentz went out with the ACL. That's right.
Yeah, I think fantasy owners or fantasy managers, as they're calling it now, politically correct.
Coaches.
Certain ones have been devastated with injuries this season. But you know what? That's why it's
Next man up.
some skill, some luck, and then you listen to Tony every week for the fantasy lineup, the last minute lineup. All right, let's take a look at the 3 teams not in first place in the AFC South. Blythe, the Colts lost another game when they led at halftime. What's going on in Indianapolis?
Poor thing. So the Colts played host to the Denver Broncos on Thursday night in a game that really no one wanted to watch. Instead, I went to go see the new Star Wars movie, which is what Tony and I have been talking about during the breaks. And when I was doing research for this game, the first comment on the highlight video was from a Colts fan that said, 1 week closer to a top 3 pick and Pagano getting fired. I ain't even mad. And it sort of brought me back to Jaguars fans, and remember what that felt like? It was just last year. You were just ready for the season to be over with. And I'm so thankful that now this year the tide has completely turned, and now the Colts are the ones that are in that position and not the Jaguars.
Yeah, and a coach really does make a difference. You know, a lot of times people think in professional sports it's the athletes, not the coaches, but look at the difference from this team. Not gonna say it's all Gus Bradley last year, but certainly the culture that he created just didn't work in that building, and the culture that between Doug Marrone and Tom Coughlin have created, it has changed everything. And it is amazing, and I think thankful is the right word. You know, you go to parties or you go out to dinner and you see Jaguars apparel, and
At the gym, everywhere.
everybody wants to talk about winning football. I know I talked to a guy yesterday at a party, and he's like, I took the day off on Friday so I could go fishing. Wahoo fishing. He's like, because I am definitely going to be in my seat tomorrow when the Jaguars beat the Texans.
That's it. One more thing about the Colts, if you still care, the Colts lost by letting Brock Osweiler's Broncos beat them 25-13 on Thursday, but they will face off against the Ravens next week before ending their season against Jaguars' opponent today, the Texans.
All right, Tony, I'll let you go last since the Jaguars face the Texans today. I'll take care of the Titans. Oh, those 8-5 Titans. They've spent the week practicing at Arizona State preparing for the 49ers after losing 12-7 to the Cardinals, which made another great moment last week when the Jaguars were playing the Seahawks when they announced that score. The Titans will be without linebacker Derek Morgan again with a knee injury, but tackle Taylor Lewan is expected to play with a back injury. Tennessee and San Francisco kick off at 4:25 today, and obviously the two quarterbacks are the story. The 49ers have won 2 in a row with Jimmy Garoppolo, while Marcus Mariota threw 2 picks in the loss to Arizona. And then he was a little frustrated in his post-game presser, and his mama called and said, "You were rude." And so then he apologized later this week for being rude. What did y'all think about how he handled that?
Have a backbone. This kid is he's not a leader on the team. You have to be, in order to play quarterback in this league, you have to be a vocal leader. That's what works in the NFL, and he's not. And I've said all season that I thought that the Titans were the biggest frauds in the NFL, and now they're starting to prove themselves.
Look, we'll see how it turns out. I certainly thought that Marcus Mariota, watching the way that he played last year before the injury and coming into this season, I thought he was going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league this year. It hasn't turned out that way. We find out really who you are when you face some adversity, and certainly Marcus Mariota is facing a ton of it right now. He's not having a good year. He's playing banged up. It's not like he's healthy, and one of the big weapons he has is his legs, and it feels like he hasn't been willing to do that for a couple months. So he's a young player who isn't ready to beat you from the pocket quite yet, and because of that weakness in his game, it's being exposed with what the Tennessee Titans are doing right now. Maybe 2018 is a completely different year, but it's not a good look.
And they also have
your mom is calling to say that you're not handling things
See,
the right way.
I don't mind that his mom called him and was like, "Hey, I don't think you handled that properly. You were curt in your post-game presser." I don't mind that she called and told him
Why
that.
do I know?
But why did he say that, right? Like, I think that's good parenting, no matter how old your kid is. You should always call and tell them how you feel about how they handled the situation.
But they also have
But why would you say that in front of press?
Maybe he's trying to get some sympathy. I don't know. I feel like Marcus Mariota has the capabilities to be a very good quarterback, but they're also led by a potato for a head coach and Mike Mularkey. This team isn't going to go anywhere if he's leading the ship.
That was another bad season here in Jacksonville when Mike Mularkey was here. That was just 1 year, and the team went 2-14.
Dreadful.
Tony, what is the latest with today's opponent, the Texans?
The big story in Houston, outside of the injuries, obviously, that we've already talked about today. To me, it all goes back to, I don't expect much out of Texas today, honestly, in this game. But I am interested to talk to you guys a little bit about what we saw with Tom Savage last week. Look, the guy is on the field twitching. I mean, he's literally on the field twitching. He comes to the sideline, the neurologist from the league, apparently the league-appointed neurologist, clears him to go back into the game.
How is that possible?
What was your reaction to seeing that develop over the course of not only that game, but this week?
Yeah, I thought it was completely idiotic. To me, you have to be a moron not to recognize that the guy has a concussion. And I love the way that the Jaguars and Telvin Smith handled his concussion, where last week he could have played, but he said, you know what, short-term wise, I wanted to, but it was better for the longevity of my career. That's the way you should look at this. Mm-hmm. You only get one brain, right? Like, you can have surgery on other parts of your body. You can't fix your brain. So to me, that was a terrible look for the Texans.
And there were 2 officials that were right there who saw it, and they allowed it. They were open. They didn't raise a ruckus whenever he went back out there. And to me, that was the most concerning. Is that you're a referee, you saw what just happened, and even though the league appointed neurologist is there and he gives it the okay, the ref needs to step in and say, hey, at least watch a highlight before he goes back out there. You have these, well, not really jumbo boards, but you have these scoreboards that are up there. Watch the highlight. And maybe they weren't showing it, who knows, but in today's day and age, that kind of information, when that happens on the sideline in an NFL game, you should be well aware of it.
And we talked to a couple people this week. We talked to John Harris in Houston about it on Friday. We talked to Ian Rappaport midweek on Jaguars today about it. And Ian said that, the official, the neurologist on the sideline, he didn't have access to any of that. Like, he doesn't see a replay.
But why not?
I don't know. Like, that's something that the league needs to handle. I don't
That
know.
seems archaic.
Right, like, I don't know if you're Bill O'Brien and maybe you didn't see what happened to him on the field, you just know he got hurt, and he comes to the sideline, and the doctor that the league has put in place to let you know whether or not he can go back on the field comes and says he can go back in. And from what I understand, he goes back in for the next series, and when they're coming off the field, O'Brien went to the neurologist and said, check him again. Like, I don't think he's right, check him again. And that's when they pulled him off the field, is after that series. And I think it was O'Brien who initiated the next test.
Yep.
So I think from a Texans perspective, I don't know what else Bill O'Brien could have done, right? Like, I don't know what he saw or didn't see. The neurologist comes and tells him he's all right, he can go back in, and then O'Brien's like, this guy isn't all right. Like, y'all need to figure this out. What's going on? I don't know what the league needs to do. If they're going to be serious about these kind of things, where if there is any kind of replay anywhere, there needs to be some kind of communication to the neurologist on the sideline, like, he was twitching on the field, he can't go back.
And
Like, he just can't go back.
If fans have access to this kind of information in an immediate environment, then the officials on the field making these decisions should have access to that same information. It's just common sense.
No, it makes sense, but like, NFL, obviously everything goes super fast. I mean, it's going a million miles an hour when you're down there on the field. I can get how some things get lost in the shuffle. If the league is serious about these kind of things, protecting players from head injuries, then you got to figure out some way to slow it down for this. Like, you need to be able to get this right. And a guy twitching on the field in the league where you say you're trying to take this seriously, it's a bad look that you allowed him to go back out on the field. It's just a bad look for the league that's trying to get over a little bit of a stigma that they're dealing with, specifically with these issues right now.
And I don't put any onus on Savage, any onus on the player, because if you've ever had a concussion, you are completely out of it, right? Like, you don't necessarily even know that there's a game going on in front of you. So I don't blame Savage for not being like, wait, whoa. I don't understand.
He wants to get paid. He's playing for a
course,
contract.
right?
Like,
Yeah.
like, you can understand where Savage is like, I'm good, man. Like,
Yeah.
put me back out there. I'll do what I got to do to go play. Like, I get it from his perspective. I still think it's stupid. But I get it from his perspective. You got to protect these guys from themselves. That's what this is about.
All right, Jaguars Texans kick off at 1 o'clock today. It is the final home game of the regular season, and the fans are starting to come on in. So come join the party with us here at Tailgaters. We will give you our keys to a Jaguars victory that will clinch a playoff berth. That's next on 1010 XL.
So this is one of the league I lost in. Listen to the chaos of this first round. I was the 1 seed. I lost to the 8 seed. It's 180. Yeah, we are. I lost to the 8 seed, 180 to 175. Scored 180. So the 8 beat the 1, the 5 beat the 4, the 6 beat the 3, and the 7 beat the 2. All the high seeds lost in the first round. I was so mad. Well, I mean, the 8 seed had Antonio Brown. I mean, it's just the guy didn't perform up to the talent of his team. But
It happens.
I also had Wentz. So,
Do you have sound effects? Okay. Swipe. We do it surreptitiously now, so I never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I walked out of the theater kind of the same way, Blythe, where I was like, I don't know how much I liked it.
Did you see it a second?
No, not yet.
Not yet?
I'm going Tuesday. But like, a couple hours later, I was replaying stuff in my head. I was like, I think I kind of like this. And then I woke up yesterday morning, and I was like, I want to go see Star Wars again right now.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, I want to go do this again right now. And that's when I was like, I loved it. Like, that's when I realized I loved it.
See, I'll definitely see it again. The first time, the pacing was off for me. The storytelling, there was really no character development. Finn's side story with the casino just felt misplaced. It almost felt like they were just trying to force him into the movie. And what scene did I did really like the hyper jump into the big ship.
Oh, that was on.
That was there was silence in the theater. Silence. Like that was that's probably my favorite scene in all of Star Wars.
The second half of the movie, like, I didn't even know what I was watching yet. Like, I was just like, all right. Like, and I wanted Kylo to turn back so bad. Like, I was rooting for him. to try to turn.
I feel like I've been rooting for him for 2 movies now to turn back to the light.
No, I wanted him to turn dark. I wanted it.
Really?
Like after he killed Snoke, and they went through that whole battle, and he turned towards Rey. I was like, please don't do this, Kylo. Like that's what I was thinking in my head. I was like, there's no bad guy. If you don't turn, there's no bad guy. And so when he went, like when it turned out it was just a ploy for him to have the advantage over Snoke in that moment, I was like, yes. Like this is the boldest thing this universe has ever done. It's ever done.
I didn't like how they killed. Spoiler warning: if you haven't seen Star Wars yet, major spoiler warnings. I hated how they killed Snoke. I didn't. Snoke is supposed to be all knowing, or what we do know of him.
Tweet that out
We
today.
don't really know.
But then he just doesn't know that Kylo has the friggin' lightsaber right next to him, and he's playing him the whole time.
He misinterpreted the emotions that Kylo was feeling. It's kind of like people, like I've been reading a little bit, people are pissed off online because Lena Dunham's character isn't explaining her plan. And I'm like,
Wait, Lena Dunham was in this movie?
she was the purple-haired lady.
Oh no, that's Laura Dern.
Oh, Laura Dern.
Lena Dunham is a fucking bitch.
But, yeah, Laura Dern. But,
You sound like Clay Travis.
She's a fucking bitch.
But
I can't stand her
like,
ass.
online people were so pissed, like, why didn't she explain the plan to everyone? Well, because our boy, they worked
That
out
was
exactly.
another big gripe of mine. So please, okay, tell me.
The only people that had figured out how Snoke had followed them were the people that went on the mission. She didn't know. As far as she knew, there's a mole.
Yeah.
So who's she supposed to tell so that they can communicate back? Because that's how they're following him.
Maybe like
anyway.
the 100 people that maybe die in the next 10 minutes.
Well, I get it, but what is she supposed to do? Like, if you're convinced that we may have a mole on board
Yeah.
that is sending back information so that they can tail us through light speed, like, that's where she has to assume we're at right now. Like, what is she supposed to do?
Yeah, I mean, I liked that much better. But I almost feel like I liked her death a lot, and I almost feel like it should have been Carrie Fisher's. I really feel like Carrie Fisher had 2 great opportunities to go out, you know, for lack of better words, with a bang. And
Like, I don't know what they're going to do in Episode 9, which is thrilling to me. That I
Yeah.
have no idea what Episode 9 is supposed to be. I have none.
I like the appeal of a Force ghost with Luke,
But
though,
I
in
have,
9.
like, I have no idea. Like, I thought I knew what Episode 9 was going to be. No idea.
Well,
and I love being in that position going into that movie.
Yeah.
But I think what they wanted it to be, and they're going to have to figure it out, I think they wanted it to be Kylo and Leia. I think that's what they wanted the conclusion of this trilogy to be. Like, that was going to be the Emperor and Vader.
Here we go.
Because she already shot the majority of 9.
Well, and he didn't shoot. Like, I think that's what they were leading up to.
Right.
Like, the 9th was supposed to be Leia's movie.
Live from Tailgaters Parking, this is the 1010XL Kickoff Show, fueled by Sawyer Gas, presented by Coastal Equipment on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
I was really hoping we were going to save the Christmas music for the Christmas Eve show.
Nope.
It's December.
Since we have that show on Christmas Eve,
Nope.
which my family was like, wait, you have to work on Christmas Eve? Yeah, but it's fun work. This is good stuff. The Jaguars have won 4 consecutive games at Everbank Field for the first time since the 2009 season. Remember when the narrative was the Jaguars couldn't win at Everbank Field? That was just this season.
It's like a lifetime ago.
Yep.
Really quick though, the Christmas Eve game, does that have a chance to be flexed later?
Well, it's at
Christmas Eve, no. That's
is it
San
405,
Francisco.
right? Yeah.
It is at 4:05?
Yeah. So I think that'll stay there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we don't know what time the Jaguars Titans could potentially be, right?
We'll see.
That one could have something.
Yeah, we'll see what the implications are of
If the
it.
Titans stink, then probably 1 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean,
Newsflash.
we'll
They
find,
stink.
we'll find out in a couple weeks.
I mean, I think if it's for the if it's for the division, then that's when the television network. There we go.
I was just worried selfishly about Christmas Eve plans if the game is flexed to later on.
Yeah, no, I think we're
No,
pretty
it's not
locked
going
in.
to Sunday night. It's
We'll be
gonna
on.
be at 4 o'clock.
We'll be on 11 to 1, kickoff at 4:05, and then you can partake in Christmas Eve festivities after that, after the football game.
Y'all have fun.
Yeah.
I'll be home at 10:30 on
Yeah,
Christmas Eve.
you'll be
Aw.
working,
Yeah,
of course.
which is
Yeah.
fun. Like, I'm not complaining. I'm covering a football.
Is your mom making the spaghetti?
I don't know what we're doing with that this year because the plan is all messed up because of the game day.
Oh, dang.
So I don't know. Like, I'm not going to be home for dinner, obviously. I'm not getting home till 10. don't expect my family to wait till 10
I think they should.
to eat dinner. That's ridiculous. So we'll see. Maybe we
I know
do
your
it on
parents, they
Christmas Day.
probably would. But I do wish that that's a game that they had moved Saturday the 23rd.
That'd be fun.
That would have been my preference if someone had asked me, which they obviously didn't. All right, how do the Jaguars beat the Texans and clinch a playoff berth for the first time since 2007? Tony, tell us what you heard this week.
Absolutely. We got a bunch this week, and we heard from a bunch of different guys, and some of it's just kind of fun. So we'll get into it. Doug Marrone, one comment from him from his show on Thursday here on 1010XL. He was asked about the hype for this team, and Doug Marrone basically said he's having none of it. He doesn't even know what's out there as far as the media hype for this Jaguars team. I think Marrone's been doing a good job with the kind of hype surrounding this team. We'll see how it looks today against Houston, because obviously the hype hasn't been any bigger than it's going to be this week after they beat Seattle here at home last week. Leonard Fournette, who's obviously a rookie on this team, not going to be available today, but he was talking in the locker room earlier this week, and he was asked if he is sick and tired of hearing everyone talk about those same old Jaguars. Yeah, Fournette obviously wasn't here for any of this. He only knows 9-4 Jacksonville Jaguars football as far as he's concerned. Unique Ngakoue, joining the boys on Good Morning Football, responded. He was asked about the comments from last Sunday, Blake Bortles, when he was asked about his reaction to Seattle and what happened at the end of the game, and he said teams just aren't used to getting the crap kicked out of them by the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I'm sure like a few fans that have been anti-Blake for a while probably came back over that line with him saying that kind of stuff for the last couple of weeks. But Unique Ngakoue was asked about Bortles' comments about teams not being used to getting beat by the Jags.
What's your reaction to hearing the quarterback talk like that?
Bortles playing well, got under Earl Thomas's skin, who said we lost to an average quarterback or whatever he said last week. Well, you lost, is what you did, Earl Thomas. With the Seattle Seahawks, Bortles was asked about who the best trash talkers are on the offensive side of the ball. I think Bortles talks plenty. He looks like a guy who talks plenty out there on the football field. And finally, back
I just
to...
like, by the way, real quick, that he's like, oh, I just throw something witty in there.
Yeah, I'm a witty guy, in case you didn't know. But one last comment here, and it's actually about the game coming up a little bit later on today. Telvin Smith back on the field, going to be back after a couple weeks out with the concussion. He talked about this team not being able to overlook the Houston Texans.
We got to make sure that we don't go into that into the mode of how they just put it to us light. We came on and put it on. So we got to make sure that we don't take this team lightly.
10.
They don't want to put stuff out there in the media, but again,
5.
we know that we're the best team. We just have to go out and line up and continue to play how we play.
Yeah, good stuff from Telvin. It's
Love Telvin.
good to have him back on the field today too. And it sounded like maybe could have pushed it to play last week, but decided for his own health that he wasn't going to do that kind of thing. And look, protect yourself, man.
Smart.
I'm 100% with Telvin on that one. And I'm glad that this week I haven't had a lot of pushback from fans saying that he should have gone out there and pushed the game. I haven't had much of that. So
He knows that I think most people that know about Telvin Smith knows that he would want to be out there. But this is the better play for longevity.
no doubt.
You're not going to hear fans, I think, say anything because the Jaguars won.
They
Right?
won,
You can't criticize anything that happened, any choices that were made, because you walk away with the victory. And oh, what a sweet victory it was. Those Seahawks fans came in there thinking they were absolutely going to win. And
Probably a layup, a Florida vacation.
and I loved watching them leave like, what the heck just happened?
And I, with Seahawks fans in particular, I didn't have any issues with Seahawks fans, and I know that some fans did. But we had a Seahawks fan on our show live last week, and she was as sweet as can be. And all the Seahawks fans that I met, they weren't like Pittsburgh fans where you just want to punch them in the face. It was just you just almost feel bad for them, because they have this certain amount of expectations every year, and they probably thought that this was going to be a layup game. And just like earlier in the season when, a Ravens fan was commenting on, and he was like, I just flew to the UK to watch my team get whooped by the Jaguars. Everybody is starting to take notice of this team, and it feels good.
I didn't feel bad for them one bit. Only because I think
Well-
there was too many of them to feel bad for them.
Well, not from a perspective of feeling emotionally bad for them, but they've pretty much gotten trashed throughout the media all this week, and the Seahawks fans that I ran into, they were nothing but nice to me, and weren't jerks about you. Normally, if you're a team of that stature, you're a little more showboaty, and I think sort of the tables have been turned a little bit. Now it's the Jaguars fans that are showboaty and pushing their chest out, and rightfully so.
Absolutely. The end of that game was insane. And, Jaguars fans, of course, threw some stuff on the field. They shouldn't have done that. But to see that Michael Bennett was not suspended or fined
What
at
a
all
crock.
for the end of that game,
Holy
I was mad all over again when that news came out on Friday. At least...
It makes me so, and just thinking
Terrible.
about it, he's
Fine.
such a piece of crap player, and I can't stand it. This isn't the first time that this has happened where he's been a piece of crap, and he's going to keep being a piece of crap, and I just can't wait until him and his brother are out of the league.
I just don't know what the league saw. Like I really don't know what the league saw.
He was making a football play.
If you want to defend,
Apparently.
like he's making a football play off the snap, I guess you can defend it, right? I don't think he was, but if you want to defend like the initial thing that happened, okay. What about the next two times he dove with Brandon Linder's legs or took it 10 yards downfield? How is that not finable? And considering that's the reason anything after that happened,
Right.
Because of what Michael Bennett did, that's why Leonard Fournette was shoving people. It's why Jefferson got thrown out of the game and
They
eventually
threw a
got
punch at
stuff
Fournette.
thrown at him. Like, all of that stuff happened because Michael Bennett did something that was outside of the game of football.
Twice.
We had John Ozier in on Tuesday this week, and I 100% agree with him where he said, you have to suspend him because if you don't, you're telling football players to handle it the same way that baseball and hockey players do.
Yeah.
And that if you want to deal with Michael Bennett, you do it by punching him in the face because that's how you have to keep him in check. We're not going to keep him in check for you. You have to handle business yourself against this guy and this team. That's the kind of message the league sends by not taking care of this kind of stuff in-house. It's ridiculous that you would fine and suspend anybody, and the top of that list doesn't start with Michael Bennett, who instigated the entire thing.
And that's the exact word I was going to use, instigator. Remember, the refs threw Jalen Ramsey out of the game against the Bengals and A.J. Green. They specifically said, even though Jalen didn't do anything physically wrong, they threw him out of that game and ejected him because they called him the instigator. Bennett was obviously the instigator, so why don't the same rules apply?
There's no consistency
Well, I
in the
guess you
NFL
could,
when they're coming down with
And it
these
wouldn't have
rules.
mattered if you ejected him, obviously, at that point, because the game was basically
Yeah.
over, but you needed to suspend him.
I mean, if
The
you wanted to
equivalent.
blame Fournette for instigating it by getting 12 yards on 3rd and 11,
And they did, because they fined Fournette.
no, well, they find it for sure.
Well, I will say that as a fan, it got me, as well as lots of other fans out there, it still gets us emotional talking about it. But kudos to Mike, or not Mike Malarkey, but kudos to our coaching staff and to our players for keeping their cool as much as possible and not wanting to score another touchdown or score another field goal that could have put us in a position where it's a turnover is created and Seattle gets a chance to get back in that game.
Thanks to Brent Martineau for this number. It has been 3,627 days since the Jaguars played in a playoff game. Ooh. How do the Jaguars get the victory today over the Texans and clinch that playoff spot?
Now the keys to the game on 1010XM. Brought to you by Instant Keys. Fast, professional, honest locksmith service.
All right. The first key to a Jaguars victory, Blythe, is
force the easy turnover. The Texans are -8 on the season. That's tied for 27th, while the Jaguars are +14, tops in the league. Get those easy turnovers and control this game.
Tony.
Oh my God. Keys for this game are just kind of asinine to me. Like, the Jaguars are better. They're better running the ball. They're better throwing the ball. They're better stopping the run. They're better stopping the pass. They're just better. And you go out there and you flex your muscle early, and hopefully you put Houston in a hole. Like, don't give them room to breathe in this football game today. The stadium's going to be hyped because, like you said, it's been 3,000 days since they've had a playoff team to cheer for. Today,
3,627.
They got a playoff team to cheer for today.
That's right.
And I think that's the way it's going to feel in this stadium. Make that count for something. Put your foot on their throat early. Don't let this be a game. Let's have a party for the second half, knowing that they're going to the playoffs.
Definitely. Stay focused. Don't let this be an easy victory, or don't let them battle back into this game, because there are still a lot of NFL players on this Texans team, despite all their injuries and everything that they've gone through. A lot of these guys are playing for contracts too, and they're playing for their contract next year, so they're going to go out there and they're going to play hard.
Going back to what Tony said, we had Jaguars kicker Josh Lambo on Helmets and Heels Tuesday night, and I asked Josh, all right, tell everybody why the Jaguars are going to beat the Texans, and he simply said, because we're better at football.
Yeah, we're better.
You're better. I loved that sentence.
Yeah.
It was concise, and it was right, and it's so much fun to be able to say the Jaguars are better than the Houston Texans. I'm going to go with Swarm TJ Yates. He joined this team in early November, so it's only been about 6 weeks that Yates, he joined with Matt McGloin. They signed both of them because they weren't sure what they wanted to do. They ended up keeping Yates, and obviously he's now playing since Savage is out with the concussion. The Jaguars' defensive line is better than the Texans' offensive line. Same like last week. The Jaguars' defensive line was better than the Seahawks' offensive line. So just get another 10-sack day. I think that would be fantastic. That's what I'm looking forward to. All right, Blythe, what's your second one?
My second one is don't get caught up in any emotional battles. We know sort of the relationship or lack thereof between Jalen Ramsey and DeAndre Hopkins. Don't let this loser Texans team bait you into something like what we saw last week, where the Jaguars were mentally tougher than the Seattle Seahawks. So let's keep that train moving, stay focused, and keep your foot on the throat.
And I want to see the passing game continue to thrive. The Texans are 26th in the league in passing defense. So take advantage of your speed between Marquise Lee, Keelan Cole, and Dede Westbrook. You know, you have two of them in your fantasy potentially lineup today, Tony. That's some good stuff. That means that not just is Blake Bortles playing well, but he and his receivers are developing an excellent chemistry. And to me, Keenan Cardell deserves a lot of the credit for that. I think he's done a fantastic job with those rookie guys.
No, they've done a really good job, and I think Dede coming into the lineup has already been huge. Just another explosive athlete in there. You can already kind of see it with Dede. I already feel like Dede Westbrook is going to be what Marquise Lee should be. Like, that's what it feels like Dede is to me. Now, look, Marquise obviously still has a chance to have a good NFL career. I'm not writing off Marquise Lee, but I'm saying you can see it with Dede where it's downfield and he's going up and he's making these plays, and he's already kind of got that veteran savvy. I mean, that play that he made last week where he used his arm, he didn't really push, he just used it to create that space on that play downfield. And it's like, whoa, this is a guy playing his third NFL game, and he knows already that this is what he needs to do in that situation. It's a lot of fun to watch him develop. And look, I think on the other side for me, clean it up. We've seen now a couple weeks in a row where the secondary has gotten lost on a handful of plays, and it's resulted in 3 long touchdowns for opponents. And look, the guys on the back end of this defense, you're too good for this stuff to happen. Cut it out. Stop it. You guys need to be in the right place. It didn't cost you last week against Seattle. It got them back into the ballgame. It didn't cost you against Indianapolis, obviously, with the long play to T.Y. Hilton. But you're good enough. This stuff should not be happening. Cut it out. Can't let it happen today against Houston. Clean it up.
Totally agree. And what's your final key to a Jaguars victory, Blythe?
I mean, we pretty much covered it all. That create turnovers and stay focused. This is an easy win for this team, but with it being a young team, they really have to focus on that staying focused part.
And I'll go with get a lead. Enjoy it. this is a team you should be able to beat easily. I want it to be 20-0 at half. I want the fans to just literally enjoy the second half and not have to worry a lick that the Texans are going to win this football game.
That'd be fun.
The Jaguars have not lost a game in which they've led at least 8 points.
I told you. What week was it? Week 3 or week 4? I told you this is the most difficult team in the league to come back from a 10-point deficit.
You absolutely did.
And it's been that way. Last week I was like, here we go. Let's see if it holds up. Like once they got and then they got tied up again, and I was like, well, maybe this is the week where nope. And then Blake hits Cole. Then we get the punt return. Then everything happens the way it happens, and all of a sudden it looks like a rout. They obviously got back into the game, but this team, this defense is so ridiculous when they get a lead, especially against a team like Houston. This is a blood in the water game if they get a lead. Seattle is playing with an MVP candidate at quarterback. Houston don't have that luxury. Houston gets down 10 points at any point in this game. It is watch out time for the Houston Texans.
All right, the injury report is really ugly for the Texans, so we'll come back and take a look at that on the other side. You're listening to the Kickoff Show on 1010XL.
Every contest is a moment when a lover hits the road.
It's so long that I figured since we have a free segment, we can just do it then.
Here's a trivia question. Dede Westbrook's
I audibled Matt.
here we go.
Do you want to just come back with
Dede
that sounder?
Westbrook's 235 receiving
report?
yards
Okay, awesome.
ranked
Thank you.
second in franchise history over the first 4 games behind who?
Wait, sorry, what?
Dede Westbrook's 235 receiving yards ranked second in franchise history over his first 4 games behind who?
Black.
Nope. This receiver had 254 yards receiving over his first 4 career
Hearnsy.
games.
Yeah.
Alan Hearns.
Yeah, Hearns had the big start. He had 2 touchdowns against
That's
Philly.
right.
Yep, that's exactly right. I want to tweet that
Oh
out.
gosh, I can vividly remember my emotions during that Eagles game.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, it was we have arrived.
yeah.
And then it was the worst second half. Oh my gosh, that was terrible. And then we got our ass kicked by the Redskins. And they
Yeah.
had
Chad Henne.
they had Kirk Cousins at the remember RG3 went down in that game and Kirk Cousins came in and we all thought, well the Jaguars now better beat the backup quarterback and now he's freaking franchise tag. Ah.
That's apparently not what the Jaguars were saying.
Obviously
No,
not.
seriously, no. They like in that game. They were like, if RG3 stays in this game, we're gonna kill him. Like the Jaguars' plan was perfect for
Okay,
RG3.
okay,
They had scouted Kirk Cousins, and like from what I've heard from people in the building, they thought if Cousins had to come in the game, that's the only way Washington could win.
Ah,
They wanted RG3.
well dang.
So, let's see.
What could have been? If the Jaguars beat the Eagles that day, I think the trajectory of the franchise is different for the last
Like
couple
that.
of years. Yeah, that's true.
So,
That would have been
West-
okay. He could have sat for a little while longer. I think that's part of his problem.
So Westbrook needs 20 yards receiving to break that
He'll get
record,
that.
franchise record.
One of the questions that I have for the show today, Brent literally asked it on our show on Friday, and I was like, we were talking about it in a break though, and I was like, oh, I have that question written for the Kickoff Show, and he was like, do you want me to hold it? And I was like, no, I don't care. It's not like everyone's listening at all times. I just thought it was a great question, and I'm glad you agree. Oh, so he's gonna come back with the sound. By the way, it was almost as if you were talking to Brian directly when you said, enjoy the game on your couch with your dog. Because this morning, I was like, all right, last chance, do you want to come? And he doesn't have a ticket for today, so he was like, no, I'll just hang out on the couch. And we don't have anybody to let Carson in. So literally, and I'm sure he was listening, so he was probably like, thanks a lot, Tony.
How was Luke?
Oh my gosh,
awesome, isn't he?
it was phenomenal. When I saw him over the summer, he was good, but he didn't have nearly as much time to play. And this time, I mean, obviously once you're the star, you get whatever you want. And I haven't been to the Florida Theater since I saw Merle Haggard there.
So they're playing Star Wars on the other TV. Not this one, on the other side.
Which one?
I think it's Revenge of the Sith, which I really like that one.
I only saw it once.
But that's right.
Well,
I think
the
tickets were like
prequels,
$20.
I saw them all once. I was over it. I was like, I'm done with this. I don't care.
How do you like the number 8 and not like Revenge of the Sith?
I don't watch it.
You gotta watch it again.
I've seen parts of it. Like I've seen like the
Darth
critical
Maul
parts.
makes. Well, no, Darth Maul's in the first one. But to see.
Phantom Menace.
Yeah, Phantom Menace. I wouldn't watch
I
again.
wanted to kill that kid.
Attack of the Clones.
It made me hate Anakin. Like it was like if that was the idea, you're gonna hate this character in the next series, so we're gonna get you to hate him early. Like if that was their goal, it worked. I was annoyed.
Revenge of the Sith is one of my favorites.
It was the best of the 3. I'll give it that.
There you go. Over the past 9 games, Houston has allowed 276 yards passing per game. That's 30th.
Alright, let's see what we got going
18
on.
passing touchdowns, 31st. So Blake could have it.
Rude!
Like I'm in
You
kind
see
of
what Alex said? I feel so bad for Lauren during the commercials.
Oh, I know. Because we're nerds now. Like my relationship with Star Wars.
I'm
is
good.
so-
It's okay.
I love Star Wars. Like I really do. If I were to list like my 50 favorite movies of all time, I'm not sure a single Star Wars movie would be
Really?
my 50 favorite movies. It's like I love this universe, but there's nothing particular about it that I'm like, this is what I'm attached to. Like I just
Yeah.
love the overall thing.
In the hierarchy of nerddom, it's Lord of the Rings is at the top for
Much
me,
warmer
and
today,
a
Matt.
close
Much
second
warmer.
is Game of Thrones, and then Harry Potter,
my
and then
gosh.
Star Wars.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings is up here.
Yeah, this is
Really-
in a class, and I'm not counting The Hobbit when I talk about Lord of the Rings.
Maybe the Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
I read all the comics.
1010XL is brought to you by David Blythe Brumleve and Tractor Sales. The personal injury attorneys of Farah and Farah present this injury update. Farah and Farah, protecting you and your family since 1979.
Well, the injury report today for Houston is bad.
Ugly.
It's just
Bad.
It's bad. Tom Savage out with a concussion, as we know from last week. He is one of 4 players that are out with concussions
Yikes.
this week for the Houston Texans. Braxton Miller, a wide receiver, out. Kendall Lamb, the tackle, is out. And Jelani Jenkins, the linebacker, also out with a concussion. Jadeveon Clowney did not participate in practice, but is listed as questionable. It sounds like he's likely going to play today. DeAndre Hopkins, with a toe injury, rested with the second half of the week in practice as well. Officially listed as questionable. He's not missing a matchup against Jalen Ramsey unless that toe has fallen off somehow in the last 48 hours. And McCoy Pruitt, the tight end, also questionable with a calf injury. So an ugly injury report there for the Houston Texans. It does sound like Lamar Miller is going to give it a go today, though he did miss some practice time earlier in the week. For the Jags, you know it pretty well by now. Allen Hurns still out with that ankle injury. Larry Pinkert out with a concussion. The wide receiver had a catch last week for the Jags, but he's out with a concussion this week. And Leonard Fournette listed as questionable, but the news reports came out last night that he is not going to give it a go. It'll be Chris Ivory in the starting lineup for the Jags today.
Yeah, and even if Fournette was still questionable and not out today, I feel like it would be smart just to sit. You
Yep.
know, I don't think this is a game in which you need to push him to the limits. All right, Blythe, what's the latest with the weather out here?
With the weather, it's gotten a little bit cloudy, but it's supposed to be mostly sunny for the majority of today, a high of 71. But unlike last week, where it was one of those games where you want to layer up, today is one of those games where you want to layer up to begin with and then be ready to shed maybe a jacket or two as you go into the game, because it's going to be a little colder in the morning. It's about 60 degrees right now, but like I said, it's going to be a high of 71 today.
It was so nice last week seeing the sunset while the game was going on. It was gorgeous. And right at halftime when they had those, what do they call them, paratroopers?
Yeah,
I guess?
that was awesome.
That was phenomenal. I
Landed
loved
with the
that.
Jaguars flag and all. It's great.
All right, we get to talk about a playoff picture here in Jacksonville. Tony, what does that look like as of today?
The playoff picture for the Jags is winning you're in. There we go. That's the Jacksonville Jaguars playoff picture.
It's that easy.
And they're in.
There's a couple other scenarios, right?
There's a scenario if they lose. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, let's tell everybody, just so they have an idea.
If you want to know, if the Jaguars were to lose today in Houston, they can
That
still
sounds
clinch a
horrible.
playoff berth. If Buffalo loses to Miami and Baltimore loses to Cleveland, neither of those seem all that likely today.
tend to agree.
So beat the Texans, and you're into the playoffs. The road to the bye for the Jacksonville Jaguars, we can talk about that because it's back in the picture after the win against Seattle last week. The Steelers can clinch home field in the AFC with a win today and a Jaguars loss. So if Pittsburgh were to beat New England and the Jags were to lose to Houston today, Pittsburgh is the 1 seed. They're locked in. They got nothing to play for the last 2 weeks of the season. If the Steelers beat the New England Patriots today and the Jaguars beat Houston, as we all expect to happen, your Jacksonville Jaguars move into the 2 seed in the AFC.
So the Jaguars are cheering for the Steelers, which we knew. But I didn't realize the Steelers are cheering against the Jaguars.
They are.
Yeah.
The easiest road to a bye week for the Jacksonville Jaguars right now is Pittsburgh to win at home today. That's the easiest road. They could, even if New England wins the game today, they could get themselves back into it, but you're looking for New England to lose one of their 2 divisional matchups coming down the stretch, which they've already lost to Miami last week. They usually drop 1 a year. It's not likely that they're going to drop 2 over the course of the last 4 weeks of the season. So you would need New England to lose one of those games. Jaguars win out in all these scenarios. That's the path to it. They got to win out if they're realistically going to get a shot at a bye week. But the easiest road, Jags win out. If the New England Patriots lose today, the Pittsburgh Steelers, New England can't do anything to catch Jacksonville. If Jacksonville doesn't lose, Jacksonville wins on a conference tiebreaker over the Patriots, who 2 seed, assuming the Steelers don't lose their last 2 games in the AFC playoff picture.
What do you think about that Steelers-Patriots game? In Pittsburgh, 4:25 kickoff today. By the way, some Jaguars fans I know will be racing out of this game to head home to watch that game, since it does have implications on the
game of the year or game of the season, I think.
Yeah. It could be, I mean, the national media is going to look at it as a preview of the AFC Championship game.
They are wrong!
And we'll see what the Jaguars have to say about that when everything is said and done. But look, I mean, we've seen Tom Brady do this way too many times. And I get it. Like, I watched him on Monday Night Football too, and it's like, did he turn 50 overnight? Like, what happened to Brady? But the offensive line was having its issues. No Rob Gronkowski. It feels like New England finds a way to fix these kind of things quicker and better than anybody else, and it's why they've been able to be what they've been for 20 years. So it's hard not to pick the New England Patriots in this game. I know Vegas has them picked.
I'm picking the Patriots.
They're coming off a loss on Monday night. The New England Patriots are a 3-point favorite in Pittsburgh.
I wonder, when was the last time the Patriots lost 2 in a row?
Donna said it happened last season.
Did it?
But I don't know exactly because I don't watch them that much.
Well, it doesn't happen often.
Which coordinator has done the best job this season? Offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett, defensive coordinator Todd Wash, or special teams coordinator Jody Camillus? Who deserves the biggest raise?
Well, the next
They all
raise,
deserve raises.
right? The next raise Todd Wash gets is going to be whatever he gets to be a head coach. Like that's what's going to happen for Todd Wash. I don't know if that's going to happen this offseason necessarily. I think he'll get some buzz and maybe get the opportunity to get in the room and interview for that kind of job for the first time. Wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Look, Camillus has done such a good job.
Yes, that's my vote.
I think Hackett has done a pretty extraordinary job too. I mean, when you look at going into this season, you thought that they need Fournette to be there every week. He's got to be the battering ram. Well, they've gone a month basically where they didn't have him. And they keep winning football games. They lose their star wide receiver. The two of the top 4 of their depth chart are gone in the wide receiver corps. They're getting nothing out of the tight end position. He's got a rookie playing left tackle. Like, he's got all these things going on, and somehow he keeps finding a way to cobble together a game plan that not only is continuing to give the Jaguars a chance to win these games, but it's continuing to allow Blake Bortles to develop over the course of this season as well. I think all 3 have done a fantastic job. If I had to put them in order of who has done the best job or who deserves a raise the most, it's Wash, because he's got the best unit in football on that side, and it's hard to put anybody ahead of a guy who's got the best unit in football on one side of it. Probably Camillus after that for me, and then Hackett, but I think all 3 are really tightly linked.
And you're going with Camillus because of how awful the special teams were last year?
Yes, they've been dreadful over the past 4 or 5 years. And then special teams can set your team up and set your offense up for success or for failure. And one of the bright spots on this special teams is wide receiver Jaden Mickens, and he's been twice named AFC Special Teams Player of the Week. And he was a practice squad guy that was signed to the squad on October 21st, and he's already had, or last week he recorded a 72-yard kick return that set up the 1-yard run for Fournette to punch it in for a touchdown against the Seahawks last week. He's a very underrated player, and like I said, the special teams unit is completing fake punts, or successfully completing 3 different looks on fake punts, and it's just something that we haven't seen. It's almost an unexpected surprise with this special teams performance.
It has been extraordinary, and that's who I want to give my vote to, but at the same time, are we, like you were saying, Tony, Wash has the most talented unit of the 3. Hackett has done a masterful job missing pieces and also with a guy that in the offseason people were ready to cut in quarterback Blake Bortles. He got benched in week 3 of the preseason, the only preseason game that has really any merit, and the guy gets benched for Chad Henne. So to me, I could argue too that Hackett has been able to create something with far less pieces to work with, and obviously also credit goes to quarterbacks coach Scott Milanovic, who has been able to help Blake really see the field better, go through his progressions, at times use his legs. You know, he hasn't done that as much recently, and that's a good thing. That means the passing game is working. I think all 3 guys, and that's the reason the Jaguars are 9-4, is all 3 guys have done a tremendous job. And you can also look at the position coaches and give them, you know, a lot of credit too. And wide receivers coach Keenan McCardell. By the way, going back to the receivers, Alan Hearns, Alex in the UK asked me what's the timetable for his return. Other than he has an ankle injury and he's been out since the Chargers game, I don't know anything else. I haven't heard anything else. Have you?
No, not really. And we'll look, it's a high ankle sprain clearly. They haven't said that, but clearly it was.
Or else he wouldn't be out this long.
For Alan Hearns. So, look, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
If he gets back in the regular season, I haven't heard anything. I mean, I've seen Alan like walk around the building. I don't see him walking with a limp or anything like that. When I see him around here, he looks okay. But you know, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. And by the way, had Jadon Mickens been able to get in the end zone with that punt return, that would have been the second person who would have won $100,000 towards a Dreamfinder's home.
Oh yeah.
Alan Hearns, I think, made the biggest play of any play in this football season, this Jaguars football season, when he caught that first down against the Chargers and then limped off because he was obviously hurt. That to me just speaks to how bad these guys won it, how they're not going to lose, even though the Chargers certainly should have won that football game. To me, it is the most pivotal play of any this Jaguars football season.
I think it earned him a new contract. Personally, I think that secured his spot, Alan Hearns, with Tom Coughlin for years to come because of that play. That's a player that Tom Coughlin loves and loves to coach and loves to not necessarily coach, but we all, I mean, he coaches a little bit.
It would be interesting to sit with him during one of the games
to be a
and hear
fly
the
on the
things
wall.
that TC gets to say. We will go behind enemy lines with Hayes Carline and hear his one-on-one with Jaguars wide receiver Dede Westbrook. That is next on 1010XL.
I was standing there with Coughlin last week in the hallway, in the press box, whenever Vinatieri was hitting that extra point or field goal or whatever it was. And I'm standing there and Coughlin's right next to me, and I'm like, Mr. Coughlin, how you doing? Good, good, how are you? And then, is he gonna make this? I'm like, I don't know, he's Vinatieri, you know. It's pretty good. Him and Caldwell were walking down the hall together.
Oh, that's cute. Look at their Girl Scout uniforms.
Oops, sorry.
In case you guys want to see what we're seeing out here, I think I can whip this camera around.
Was it? I guess it was.
Maybe
Think back to
not.
the second Texans
Oh, there we
game
go.
last year.
That's what we see. So this is Tailgaters Bar and Grill. Let me see if I can show you. There's the parking lot starting to fill up. We got a couple Girl Scouts over there with all their badges, which is pretty cool. We got a little food truck right in front of us that smells really good and it's making me really hungry. But that's what we see out here. So thank you guys for watching. You gotta watch Revenge of the Sith again. Apparently there's a marathon on TNT right now.
Like
You'll have a new appreciation for it. I never hated the prequels like other fans did.
That episode one.
It wasn't the best.
I was so bored.
I think I could make an argument though that episode 1 might be better than The Hobbit.
Well, it may be better than The Hobbit. Maybe. Like, but I didn't like The Hobbit either.
The rewatchability of it is dreadful. And that's with Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, every time I watch it, it gets better and better. The Hobbit, it gets worse and worse. And I'm like, why did you guys do this to me?
No, like, I think, like, I think he started making movies for his kids.
Who, Peter Jackson?
No.
George Lucas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think he started making movies for his kids, and by the time that I was watching episode 1, I was an adult, and I was just bored. I was like, sitting there like a kid, like, I'll go watch a Pixar movie and have a good time. This isn't even fun. Like, I don't enjoy the speeder race, even a little bit. Like, even, like, I'm just...
Yeah. I loved I think I liked it. I liked the pod racing was...
But I feel like I'm watching a cartoon, and I know I'm watching a cartoon. Like, everything in the, like, all 3 movies, like, this is all just green screen, nothing feels real because
Yeah.
I know nothing's real. Like,
It's a lot of CGI. That's my big gripe with The Hobbit too. It's a lot of CGI.
And then these last 2 Star Wars movies, I'm like, yeah, these are people doing things. Like, even I geeked out when the Yoda puppet showed up. Like, I was
Spoiler alert!
I was like, oh hallelujah! I was like, it's not CGI
Right.
Yoda.
And Frank Oz.
It was
voicing
so
it.
great. Like, I was geeking out in the theater.
What did you think of the Porgs?
I like it.
I liked them too. I thought they were cute. I didn't like the black BB-8. I thought that was a little cheesy.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it though. A lot of fans hated the black BB-8.
Man, fans love to hate. It's good. Like, when I walked out of the movie and I was trying to figure out how I felt about it, like, I knew. I hadn't looked at any reviews yet. I was like, I know
Yeah.
what this one's going to be.
They're from
Like,
Ireland.
there are going to be people that are going to walk out of this theater fuming mad because of what he chose to do to Skywalker. Like, it's going to be, they're going to be so pissed.
It wasn't necessarily what they did to Luke. It was the story pacing throughout the movie. There was a lot of unnecessary parts in it.
To me, it felt like, almost like, it made me feel almost like I do when I go to see Nolan movie, where I forget that I'm holding my breath for the last 45 minutes. Like, and then it ends and I'm like, whew, okay, what all did I just see?
Yeah.
You know, like, that's what this one felt like, and I've never felt that way watching Star Wars movie. Never.
Did you realize whenever the Force, I guess the Force Ghost, kind of a Force Ghost of Luke, when he's fighting Kylo, did you know at that moment that he was mentally...
What I was thinking was, when he got shot all those times, didn't die, I was like, they're going to have to explain this to me. It's like, I've never seen anything with the Force that says that this guy can do this. Like, did Luke Skywalker become a god? Like, that thought did go through my head. And then when they started fighting, like, I noticed, I was like, why aren't Luke's feet making any imprints in the sand?
I didn't notice. My brother picked up on that.
Like, I picked up on it while I was watching, and I was like, in my head, I was like,
I picked up on the beard. I was like, he looked younger in it, and so
he shaved and he did everything.
Well, he wanted to look as if Kylo last saw him,
right.
So that look.
Right. So, like, there were things that I had noticed, but, like, I was so involved in the moment that I didn't really think about. They were just tickled back of my brain. And as soon as I walked out of the theater, I was like, yeah, obviously. I should have known the whole time.
Yeah.
But
Awesome. Thank you so much.
See, when he died, I was confused. I was like, wait, did he die, or did he just go, project himself somewhere else? The Force was a little, the way that they used the Force in this movie was a little confusing to me. With Leia going through space, the Force moving herself, and then you got this situation with Luke. I'd never really seen the Force powers used like that before.
Below zero. I don't get, now the next 4 in Florida, right? Tampa, Orlando, no, Tampa.
All right, welcoming in Hayes Carline, Jaguars beat reporter for 1010XL, joining us now. Good morning, Hayes. How are you on this perfect day for some football?
Good morning, Lauren.
Absolutely. Will you have tears in your eyes if the Jaguars win today and clinch?
There will be no tears in the eyes, but it will definitely be an exciting moment. Hard to believe that, it's tough to lose the things like that, and rebuild. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be a pretty awesome moment.
Yeah, they got to take care of business. The Jaguars have not allowed any points on their opponent's opening offensive possession at Everbank Field this season. Do you expect that trend to continue today?
I do, because I think it's hard for me to see him coming out with an easy shape for this defense, but I can see him doing something in the second quarter, maybe in the first fourth period, once he got a better sense of it. But I'm really, if he's able to wrap this out, he'll start the game. Now, with Mark Miller, he's certainly great. That's the rest of the first early session before. But I didn't think it would take some time for DJ to settle in if he was able to.
Hayes, how do the guys in the locker room act towards Bortles now compared to earlier in the season?
really interesting because you do get a sense that there is a lot more. We remember back in training, A-Rob was having that, it's just one of the old practices playing victim on the sideline for the team, and A-Rob gets up and obviously frustrated with, keeping it down, basically. It's really hard to believe how far forward it's come since then, because you do see the confidence, and it's interesting when you talk to like Sam Robinson and Cole and Steve Westbrook, because they just act like this is who he is, but obviously, we know that that's not the case, because they really struggled through last year. But I do think you see it with the veterans, and certainly on the defensive side of the ball, I think you see more of an appreciation for the job the way he's doing. And, he's always had the confidence, he's always had the work ethic, but the production wasn't always there. It's really never been a last year. And now, now you're starting to see it. I don't think it's time to start, putting great worlds in hands, but I think certainly he is quite better, and I think, that you have to acknowledge that, it's failed to be test. You have a veteran secondary, he's not tremendous, but when you're trying to just savvy and education and things, so, have a good day-to-day sort of keep it going.
Yeah, I think Blake matches the personality of what this team has developed into in 2017 really well, and it's paying dividends for him, at least at this point. Hopefully it continues to through December and into January and maybe even February days when everything is said and done. But obviously today they're going to have to get it done without first-round pick Leonard Fournette, who's not expected to give it a go today with that quadriceps injury. How much, if any, at all, does that affect the Jags' offense against Houston?
I think it affects it because I think he's a far superior player than the guy they dealt with. Not to Ivory don't have talent in things, but Ivory was a little more inputted, last week on the 34-yard line. So that makes sense. But it's a loss. I mean, he's a consistent player when he's healthy, and it looked like as far as the ankle that he was back last week. Really made, I thought, incredible touch, great game. But, it obviously has some injuries going on. So, that will change up a little bit more. But it'll be interesting to get Chris Ivory and everybody else. And, they certainly can do some things, but I think it's going to be more, on the way to see if we can find our keep the feeling and keep before you say that, this could be a game too where, our city becomes more of a factor. We have to do a lot of it.
Calais Campbell is now 4th in the league with 12.5 sacks, trailing the leader Chandler Jones by 1.5. Will he blow past that number today?
I don't get a sense that he will. I think Calais might get, maybe one. I think about five. That game, Calais was over because I think, Phillips was higher, but that happens back to the line. And again, this is a rematch. You can't let what happened So I think, based on how the way it was, before that, I didn't know if Ryan is going to tell him, the coordinator and staff, do not let him not really get 3, if not make foul, that you don't want to do it. But I think it's a lot easier to have that happen. So I would expect really try to just have a play. You can post it, they can hold up and they one-on-one against the other top Jaguars.
Hayes, with the injury to Fournette and him not going today, and say the Jaguars do get the win, at what point do you start resting starters?
I would probably rest Fournette. Always help them, and that's what he's done. So, I think if they're able to get the win today, with the Robert Person, then you look I wouldn't play in Jacksonville. I would see reasons to do that. So Leonard's really the only guy that I think that they'll manage like that, but I do think that they'll consider it. And, you don't know that he's going to get the line, so if Leonard gets basically 3 games off before the playoffs, then I think he might believe if he's ready for a 35-touch workload. He can get 35 touches. I don't think they're winning in the first playoff game. You feel really good about it, man.
Hayes, we've seen a handful of big plays given up on his defense in the last couple of weeks. I don't think it's raising to the level of a concern for me yet because we've seen him be so good for the vast majority of this season. But it is something that it's a trend that I would like to see end today and not come back, is them giving up those big plays in the secondary, because when they get to the playoffs and go up against teams like Pittsburgh and New England that are much more capable of taking advantage of it than, say, the Colts were 2 weeks ago, it could be a concern at that point.
It could be, and it'll be interesting when Kelvin returns, because really what we've seen is on a lot of teams, I think Kelvin absent instead of back. So I think that for one will help. But that five, that is close to touchdown in the game. It makes it only one. But it's really hard to imagine putting together a 10-play, 77-yard, 30-second touchdown drive. I think against this defense, based on what their offensive line and quarterback is like. But teams will forward get behind them, or certain teams, DeAndre, maybe 50 tackle, break tackle, and get a 50-yarder. That'll be that's maybe a little harder to see. But I would be surprised if Fuller got to say after a touchdown in this game. So we don't know what the chemistry is between the second receivers and DJAs. So obviously we really have a half of football to go off of. But I still think there's not kind of a touchdown today. I don't think that was the end zone. So I think he probably does get that touchdown off something close to play, whether that's Lamar Miller going up the middle like we've seen before, or one of the
Hayes, if the Jaguars win, you have an idea for how the team should celebrate, right?
I do, and I hope they're listening, because the cool thing about elementary school is not something it's the only stadium in the league that has that. So I'd like to see the Jaguars playing. I think the Jaguars aren't going to win, and then I'd like to see them say, okay, we're going to get to the press conference in a little bit, we're going to get in the locker room a little bit. Before we do that, let's get up to that fan. And let's all get it. I want to write it. I want to be able to. I want to talk.
It's a pool party.
I think it would be, such a match to celebrate. The Jaguars really kind of went wild with it and kicked the party off by joining. And I think the other 31 teams would sort of take notice and say, yeah, that's pretty cool. So, I'm hoping for it. I'd like to see a pool party at the end of the week.
I absolutely love it. All right, you caught up with wide receiver D.D. Westbrook. What did you think about his touchdown dance?
I like it, and it's been really cool to see all the fans that have posted their own version of it this week. So TD certainly catching on. You look at his 4 games, receiving yards have gone up each week. So that's great. I think it's going to be a Jaguars victory today. And he's really making a name for himself. And again, for a guy that was on injured reserve as a rookie, it's really impressive how he's been able to get back in a rhythm with the offense and really have played this established that has trusted him on the back shoulder to him, backed up in the early game last week. I know I really showed some trust in his way past TD, but he's just been excellent so far, so hopefully it keeps up.
All right, Hayes, enjoy your game day, and thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, I got a question.
Thank you guys. Take care.
All right, and here is Hayes Carline's one-on-one with Jaguars wide receiver D.D. Westbrook.
So please be joining Jaguars receiver D.D. Westbrook here on Central XL 92.5 FM DD correction. Exactly 3 minutes long.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
What you got?
No problem.
What's the question?
I was just gonna make a joke. I didn't follow it on 95. I got the tweet. got a neurologist for the same.
What's it like?
That's all I was gonna say. All right, I'll catch y'all later.
See you, man.
Looking forward to going up against the Texans for the first time.
I can't wait. You know, a guy like me being from Texas, you know, and get to play the Texans is going to be great.
What do you see with them with their secondary that'll present challenges for you guys?
They're fast. You know, pretty much they're just fast, and they like to play as well. You know, the defensive backs they're more so to the interceptions, and so we just got to do a great job running our routes before they not taking things off, just being aggressive.
Did your dance have a
Yeah, I think I'm gonna
Nice. What's that like seeing everybody around the nation, enjoying watching this week?
I didn't made up, for Thanksgiving, my family did, and we had like a little small Soul Train line going on. Soul Train line is when everybody, form a big circle, and one person get in the middle and dance, and then one person let the next person go. And so my mother and my brother did a couple of dances, and I had to back it up with something. 30 seconds. I showed the world that, it's actually a couple of more.
You guys obviously came in as a working class, hoping to change some fortune for this franchise. You're 1 win away from taking the playoffs by how exciting is that?
That's very, it's something we talk about. I have no idea what it's like, but at the end of the day,
10.
The marching munchkin?
I love it.
Is that how you would describe it?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
Not at all.
Whatever. You get to.
I like the name.
You get to name it.
That's right.
I decided that my family needs to start having these Soul Train lines because that sounds like so much fun. That's way better than just eating like a Thanksgiving meal and just sitting on the couch and watching football. I think a dance party needs to break out, and then maybe my mom will create some sort of dance and then tag it with a name like that. I absolutely love it. All right, thanks to Hayes Carline for catching up with DD Westbrook. We are almost out of time, but first we're gonna find out what's cooking on the Sawyer Gas Grill, and we'll make our picks. That's on next on 10 XL. I cannot say that. Sawyer Gas Grill.
What did that guy want?
Just like telling some joke. He was like, yeah, I heard you guys talking about a neurologist. He's like, I hit a pothole on 95. Do they have a neurologist for fans? Like, I can say that. Alrighty then. I think he was a little.
Bless your heart.
Yeah, I don't mind like new force powers. That stuff doesn't bother me.
I just don't get how.
I don't know, like the Leia thing. Like I said when we talked about it 2 years ago, it's like, I don't care about Skywalker.
Yeah. I love Leia, and to me that would have been such a beautiful death for her.
Well, now you're probably just gonna get a funeral at the end. That's like, it's my guess.
Yeah, because I guess he will kill his mom.
I don't know if he'll kill her or she'll just die. I really think the idea of the whole
Spoiler
thing,
alert.
I really think what they were going for was there was going to be this confrontation between Leia and Rim. I think that's what it was going to be. And unfortunately, Carrie Fisher passed.
Yeah. Well, I did hear all along, and this is, you know, obviously before her death or anything like that, but that it was supposed to be Han's movie was 7, and then Luke's was 8, and then Leia's was 9.
Yeah, it makes sense. You can see it.
But now it's like, I heard that they had to do so many different rewrites and some more reshoots, so I just assumed, and that's probably my, you know, going to what I said earlier about my theories going in.
Yeah, it is, but like I wasn't doing all the fan theory stuff either. Like I wasn't paying attention to movie news as it was happening.
Yeah,
I was just
I eat it up, and maybe that's on me.
Like, and so for me, I didn't care about Snoke when I saw him in episode 7, so I didn't care for 2 years.
I just wanted to know where did he come from and how did he rise to the power? Like a little bit of history lesson, not just pop a new character in here, this evil villain. And
they've told me who the Emperor was, and I don't even remember. Like I've watched those movies and I don't care. I never cared. Like I didn't need to know the backstory of Darth Vader. Right? Like I saw him be redeemed. That's enough for me. Like, I never needed to see how he got there. I know where he was.
See, that was, to me, that was the most powerful moment of Revenge of the Sith, is that you saw someone being manipulated, and that's how you saw somebody, it's sort of and it goes back to the old Jedi way of how they thought that they could raise Anakin, and that they learned their lessons from Anakin and how they raised Luke and Leia.
Well, and that's why...
How are you?
Like, I get all that, and that's why the Luke turn in this movie is right.
Yeah.
Like, it's because he fell into the same vanity that is the reason that Anakin happened.
Right.
Like, it's the same thing, it was just the opposite way. Like, the Force was well balanced good. And everyone thought, well, that's the way it should be. No, it's here.
And that's Qui-Gon Jinn, I guess, lived in the gray light. He didn't live in the dark or the light side.
It's supposed to be like this. It's
right.
supposed to be
How
here.
long are your grandkids
I don't know how they're going to get there.
Well, they're moving here.
Like, I don't know how
Oh,
they
they
get
are?
there.
Yeah.
With Kylo and Rey. Like, that's the interesting
They've
part of
moved
episode 9. I don't
we've
know
been
what
working
9's
on
going
that
to be.
for
I
a
have no
long
idea
time.
what 9's going to be.
I have a little bit of a gripe with Rey being
kids
so
are
force
gonna-
sensitive
they're
and
gonna
having such
permanently.
strong powers and
This will
fighting
be the
styles
first time in
and
24
never being
years we'll have
trained
all our kids
in the arts
together.
of it.
Oh my gosh, that's exciting.
Outside of
Five
a few,
of them,
like,
so.
Maz, you know,
5 of them
focus on
make
feelings.
grandkids.
I don't know. Like even the Rey thing.
I was happy that
24
she was
years.
still
That's
alive.
awesome.
Well, and like
Yeah.
the Rey parents thing.
My wife is over the moon.
I did when they had the spoiler alert when they had the preview of her walking up. I'm like, this is it. It's gonna be Palpatine because it even kind of looked
We're
like
gonna get a
Palpatine's
home
hair,
game
like from the
I
prequels.
think
Like
Steelers Patriots will
But I
definitely
get it
get
now.
into
the
that
wonder
today.
of Star Wars was that I could be Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Like when I was a kid, and the twist
boss
with
is
him
up there
being
for that game.
Darth Vader's kid takes
Pittsburgh,
that away.
yeah.
I
Right.
can't be Luke
Steelers
anymore.
fan?
I gotta be Anakin's kid.
All the way.
Die Hard.
Right.
And this brings
I
it
was,
back to. I think that was kind of.
we got home up in North Georgia, and there's a really
Yeah,
exclusive
I did
dance
really
club
like
called
that.
Hawks
All
Ridge.
this.
Right.
A lot of
Like the idea
celebrities
is
from
We're all
Atlanta,
rebels.
And that's why
along there. And I was working a charity event
That's
there.
why I
And I'm
enjoyed her
sitting
as
there on
much
this,
as
this
I
block
did.
wall.
Like her line of,
And
it's
this
not
guy
about
gets out of the
destroying
car
what we
thinking,
hate, it's about holding on to what we, it's fighting for what we love.
Yeah.
I was like,
That looks
yes,
familiar.
this is Star Wars to me. Like,
But she's
this is-
fighting for somebody that she loves and she's known for
I said,
less
look
than
at
a
the
day.
thighs on that guy. He gets out of the car and he
She's
walks in and said,
idolized
hey, how you doing? Walks on
It's
by.
like, you don't
Yeah.
know
The caddy
Harrison
gets the
Ford,
bag out of
kiss
the
him
trunk
if
and
you were in
sits it
that
down and
time.
says,
Sure would.
"Thanks."
Right? It's the same thing.
That's true, I guess.
Wow.
Like, this guy is a hero.
He was a stud.
He is a walking legend.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
And it's going to be about a 15-minute segment or so.
Strap it.
Nice and long.
Where's the best place to fish this weekend? I've got the Jeff Baker, and I'll tell you what it is.
All right, 10 seconds.
Quarter to the 6 o'clock hour on the door. Brought to you by North Florida Yacht Sales, voted Jacksonville's #1 boat dealer on 1010XL 92.5 FM. Now let's find out what's cooking on the Sawyer Gas Grill.
Good morning, Barry Rainey, General Manager of Sawyer Gas. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you guys?
We are fantastic.
I apologize, Barry. Came over to sit down with us, and Blythe and I were caught in our own little Star Wars world.
That's okay. I just listen to what's going on. I'm a Star Wars fan myself as well.
Have you seen it yet?
No. I pulled out a lot of the old paraphernalia in the closet for the grandchildren. You know, it's got actually a real lightsaber. But, you know.
What?
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Nice. You
I'm
should
not
have brought
supposed- I'm
that
not supposed to
today.
tell everybody that.
You should
Hopefully
have
they're
brought
not
it.
listening.
Actually, I went to a costume party dressed up as Darth Vader one time. So that's
What?
Awesome.
That's awesome.
I had the voice synthesizer, everything.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. I made a better Darth Vader than everybody thought when I did it. So I just
Gotta embrace it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Barry, so what's cooking over there on the big blue grill?
We got the Azar sausage cooking up with the hot and mild. You can come on by and sample. It's great. And hope you guys can come and do that. See.
Absolutely, and people can always register to win a grill, right?
AmericanGrassGrill.com. It's a word, it's a mouthful, but we got a little card for you to pick up, so you don't have to fill out anything here. You can register online. It's a great grill. It's about $2,000 value, and we'd love to be able to give that away to somebody. We're going to run that through March, so if you don't do it today, you can go online and fill out the information and still have a chance to win.
Speaking of giving things away, you guys have been giving your time away and volunteering. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's right. We do a lot in the community that maybe a lot of people don't know about, but recently we worked with the Hunger Strike downtown. A lot of people donated their time and went along and helped build meals for 4,000 children in the local community. We also did the toy drive for the Hubbard House here locally in downtown. And well, in a lot of other activities that we're planning out, the Don K, we participated in that. We feed about 3,000 people that day when they come through, keep all the runners so they're carbohydrates. So a lot of different activities throughout the year that we've been involved in, and we're happy to do it. We're part of the community and we want everybody to know that.
That's very cool. The way I understand it as we get ready for the holidays too, obviously Christmas coming up next week. I've never fried a turkey myself, but the way I understand is I should heat up a gallon of grease and throw in a frozen turkey and just see what happens, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's the best way to meet the fire department you've ever seen. So really quickly, you just take that pot before you do anything, put your turkey in and fill it up with water to the top to where it almost covers the turkey, and then take that turkey out and mark the line where the water comes back down to, pour your water out, and then put that much grease in. And that way you're not going to overfill it, because that's what starts most fires. And people have, instead of having a happy Thanksgiving or happy Christmas, they're having a happy hello fire, Mr. Fireman, how I rebuild my house as I burn it down. So follow those simple rules and you'll be certainly a lot safer.
And I know Frank will be calling you soon. Frank Frangie was talking to you this week at the holiday party, and he was like, yeah, I haven't used my chimney since I bought my house almost 20 years ago. So I don't know what to do. I need Sawyer Gas to come out and check it out.
Well, we're probably going to tell Frank the first thing you need to do is have somebody run a big brush down there and take all the cobwebs out there and be safe.
Yeah.
But we're going to hook Frank up with a bottle of gas. We're going to check out his fireplace and get him up and running so it's nice and safe. So all he's got to do is push a button when he wants to use it.
That's perfect. That's what everybody wants.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, for people who drive a lot, they notice that a lot of people drive with their cell phones in hand.
Right.
Obviously, they shouldn't do that, but how does that affect you guys?
Well, we spend a lot of time training, going over these things with our guys. Distracted driving is probably the #1 thing causing accidents today, especially for teenagers and younger people, and even older people these days. People get distracted by, I just got to look at that phone. It's just overwhelming need to pick up that phone and look at it, and then you're going to reply. And in the traffic, you look away for 5 seconds, and a lot can happen in 5 seconds. So, with the number of people we're going to have out there on the roads these holidays, we're just trying to remind people it's not worth it. You can wait till you get to where you're going, or when you stop and use the phone. Don't text and drive. It's a horrible way to have to end up your holiday in the hospital or even worse. So, distracted driving, you just need to stay away from it. Leave those phones down until you get to where you're going. If you have to use it, use hands-free so you're not actually occupying your hands or keeping your eyes on the road. So the best thing we can do is we're advising all our folks that out there in these big trucks to do the same, and we hold them to that, and we just like to remind all the drivers out there that's going to be out there this holiday to do the same.
Love it. And these two would advise you to go see the new Star Wars.
Yes, you got to.
Yeah, so I've actually been told I can't go see it till we're going up north for the holidays for Christmas up to our house in just above Atlanta, and all my grandchildren want to see it. Told me says that we're waiting on you. So that's the sign to tell me not to go.
Are you gonna dress as Darth Vader when you go see it?
I thought about that, but it might not be a good idea. Me, wearing a hood around a bunch of small kids these days, with a lightsaber, somebody might get upset. What's this guy gonna do next?
Gonna kill some younglings or something.
But I will be posing beside the poster for my picture.
Come by the big blue grill. Register to win the gas grill. Get Sawyer Gas koozies, which people always steal from me when I bring them to tailgates, and also get the clear plastic bags that you can use
Absolutely.
to bring
Don't
in to
buy
go to the
one.
game.
Just get one here from us, and you can take it to the stadium.
And sample that delicious Azar sausage.
Yes.
Barry Raining, General Manager of Sawyer Gas. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, now we're going to talk about who's going to win the lock of the week, the upset pick, and this Texans Jaguars game.
Southwest Grill. Schedule your holiday party catering today and get a $5 Mo buck for everyone at your party. Order
interested to see if we all have the same lock of the week. Blythe, who you got?
I'm gonna take the Vikings over the Bengals because last weekend I picked that the Bengals would upset the Bears because of everything that's going on with the Bears, but the Bengals just straight up quit last weekend. That defense quit and allowed that Bears team and Mitch Trubisky to score all over them. So give me the Vikings over the crappy Bengals.
Yeah, the Vikings, I think, are smelling blood in the water at this point with Carson Wentz out for the Eagles. And Minnesota knows, you know, this is their path to potentially a Super Bowl in their home state. So I'm right there with you. I got the Vikings. What say you, Tony?
Not me, not my lock of the week. I have New Orleans over the Jets. The Jets are going on the road. They lost their quarterback. They're not bringing their best, one of their best defensive linemen against a team that has had 10 days off and has the best running game in football right now, maybe, in the New Orleans Saints. I think the Saints beat the Jets badly in today's game.
If you could have picked the Jaguars and Texans as the lock, even though our rules don't allow it, but if you could have, would you have chosen it?
I think it's close.
Yeah, I
it's
think
definitely
so too.
close.
I think it's close with that New Orleans game. Like the Jets, they're having to replace their quarterback with Bryce Petty in today's game against the Saints. Bryce Petty would be the guy that's coming in because they don't want to get a look at the guy that they spent a second-round pick on last year. He's not ready to play yet. And Christian Hackenberg. They don't trust Christian Hackenberg to go on the field, despite the fact that he's in his second year after wasting a second-round pick on the former Penn State player. And they're leaving Muhammad Wilkerson home. I mean, on top of all that, again, the Saints played last Thursday. They've had a week and a half to get themselves healthy and ready for this game.
And they ended that game on a bad note with Drew Brees and Sean Payton sort of getting in trouble at the last minute and Brees throwing that pick. So they're probably anxious for a victory.
Upset of the week, Tony.
Not a lot of upsets I like this week, to be honest with you, looking at this schedule. But I have to pick one.
That's right, those are the rules.
So I'll take Oakland at home over the Dallas Cowboys. That'll be my upset today. But like I said, there's none of them that I looked at and said, oh, that's the upset this week. There was none of them that I loved. I thought about Pittsburgh, but I can't. New England, I've just seen them do it too many times. It should be a close game. I think a field goal is about right for that football game, but it's hard for me to say that I think Pittsburgh is going to win, because I do think the Patriots are going to win. So if I have to pick an upset this week, I'll take Oakland over Dallas.
All right, and you do have to pick an upset. So good job. Blythe.
Last week I picked Arizona over the Titans as my upset pick, and I'm going to pick Arizona again. This week they're facing off against the Redskins, and I think that Blaine Gabbert isn't playing terrible, which is saying something about him. So I'm going to pick them to win over the Redskins.
That's an interesting matchup. It feels like the Redskins have a better record than the Cardinals, but they don't. And something, I know we don't watch a ton of Redskins football, but something has gone wrong.
Their whole organization is a joke.
I've got the Rams on the road over the Seahawks. That's right, those Seahawks that we just saw here at Everbank Field lose. I have them losing at home today, which I know doesn't happen often, but the Rams are better. They're more explosive, and I've got the Rams and the 31-year-old head coach taking the Rams for the changing of the guard in the NFC West. And finally, to the game at Everbank Field, kicking off at 1 o'clock today. By the way, cat signal today at 12:10 p.m.
As long as they don't have to check coats, then I think everybody should be okay.
Yeah, that was a long.
Took me close to an hour to get into the game last week.
Yeah, it'll be much less clothing on today for fans. It's a lot warmer than it was a week ago. All right, Blythe, who you got? Texans, Jaguars.
Obviously the Jags. This is an 11-point spread. I don't know. This game might be really, really close. I don't know that it'll be the large victory. It's either going to be really close or it's going to be a large victory.
Tony.
Hammer time. It's hammer time today for the Houston Texans. This is a team that's been able to take out some frustrations on a couple of different opponents at this point this year. They already did it week 1 against Houston. Houston's even worse coming in here. It's a home game for the Jags as opposed to a road game. TJ Yates is playing quarterback. DeAndre Hopkins is banged up. Their offensive line is not very good. Their defense has obviously lost maybe their 2 best players on that side of football this season as well, compared to where they were week 1 against the Jags. Plus, Houston had a motion on their side going into that football game after everything that had happened in Texas. They got none of that going for them today against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hammer time. Jags big, 31-7 at home today over the Texans.
I love it. You know what? I'm close, but I'm not even giving the Texans a touchdown today. TJ Yates is walking away with his offense just getting a field goal. I've got Jaguars 28, Texans 3. The only battle red I want to see today is the Texans' blood on the field. I want to see Yates bleeding because he's been hit so many times by the Jaguars. And I know Hayes mentioned that he doesn't think Calais is going to get necessarily the 1.5 sacks to take back the lead in the NFL for sacks. I don't know. I think Calais is a one-man wrecking ball, and I think he's going to have himself some TJ Yates face mask in the dirt today. That's what I want.
I think he could. You look at I'm not sure that Yannick Ngakoue doesn't wind up leading the Jags in sacks.
Really?
Really. He's only 1.5 back. I mean, and he's the hot guy right now. Young is the hot guy right now in that pass rush group, and it's not like Calais is slowed down all that much. But you look at it, 3 games left to play. You know, the matchup against Houston this time. You got Calais just tore them up the first time, so do they focus on that? Getting ready for this game today, which creates more one-on-one matchups for Yannick Ngakoue, potentially up there on the front. Look, I don't know. I think the Jaguars' defensive line should completely dominate this Houston Texans team today. I think they got an indecisive quarterback, and a guy who's going to hold the ball for an extra half second against this Jaguars team is going to get killed. Unless you're as mobile as Russell Wilson, you're going to die. That's what's going to happen back there. So I expect that to happen to TJ Yates unless Houston somehow came up with a game plan that is just throw it to your first read. I don't even care if he's open. Just throw it. Like, wherever we decide this play to go, I don't need you making a read throw it. If you get picked off 6 times, so be it. We're not going to stand you back there and get killed.
I think there's going to be at least. I think there's going to be at least 2 picks today, and that's coming from a team with the Texans. They're -8 on the season as far as turnover differential is concerned, and with the Jaguars, they lead the league in turnover differential with +14. So I think we're going to see a lot of turnovers today.
What does tailgating look like today for you?
Today we're keeping it pretty simple, pretty easy. This is the 3rd home game in a row, which is it's a little, I don't want to say tough as a fan, but you got to get going every single weekend, and you got to get a bunch of food ready and all that. So we are going to take the playoffs to another level as far as food is concerned, because normally during our Jaguar seasons, we kick off the season and we end the home season with lobster and steak. And we're not doing that today because we're saving the lobster and steak for our playoff game, so we're just doing burgers today, keeping it simple.
So if the Jaguars don't have a home playoff game, will you still have the lobster and steak? Okay.
We'll still have it at some point, but I'm banking on that home playoff game.
Tony, what does it look like for you?
I'm heading into the stadium to get ready for the game, and hopefully the party is still going on when I'm leaving.
Pool party!
It's what I'm hoping is going to happen today, and I expect it to happen today. Look, I think, you know, for fans that have been telling me to slow play it for a month and a half now, when I told you this is a playoff team, this is a team that's going to win the South, it's like, you can't say those things because if you say them, they don't happen. No, they don't. What I say has absolutely nothing to do with the reality of what happens in the world, and neither does what you say have anything to do with the reality. Party like you've never partied before. It's been 10 years. Enjoy the heck out of it. Worry about next week. If they beat the Houston Texans today and get into the playoffs, it's ought to be a week-long celebration in the city of Jacksonville. Let the 53 guys inside that locker room have to figure out what they got to do to get even-headed before they go to San Francisco. I don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about it. Let's enjoy kicking the crap out of the Texans, partying like rock stars, like Doug Marrone said, and then worry about next week.
Yes, sir.
There's a song that I have in my head, and it's Party Like It's 1999, because if the Jaguars get a home playoff game, it will be the first one since 1999. By the way, I'm going to hang out with my friends at the tailgate I always go to, and a couple got engaged this weekend, so we have more stuff to celebrate, so congratulations to Dave and Heather. That'll do it for us here at Tailgaters. Thanks to our producer, Matt LeVay, back at 1010XL headquarters, our on-site engineer, Andrew Gibson, and of course our friends from Sawyer Gas for cooking up those Azar sausages for us. For Tony Smith and Blythe Brumleve, I'm Lauren Brooks. Enjoy your game day. And stay tuned for the Publix Tailgate Show with Mike Dempsey and JP Stradrick. That's all next on 1010XL.
We're done. Sorry about that.
Thank you guys. Go Jags. Go see Star Lost Jedi.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.